dun.
So, kind of late and gay, but whatever. I did not make an official announcement to this to everybody that was out there on the internet spheres. So it's whatever. But anyway, here we are. Hello everybody. It is Zach of Darkon Entertainment, and I have with me one of my buddies, Reckless Trucker. Say hi, Trucker.
Hi, Trucker. I know that's great.
Speaking of gay, that's so gay right there. You said I say hi.
Hi.
It kind of reminds me of the days of S-Man. On occasion, I just say for him to say hi, S-Man, and he'd literally say hi, S-Man.
Well, back before he went full retard. No, I'm kidding. S-Man, if you ever see this, stop being weird.
Anyway, no, this has nothing to do with S-Man. I mean, S-Man, I still love you, dude. In spite of some tensities of the relationship, and I hope to maybe sometime get a bit of a once a year reunion stream going on this December. But nonetheless, as you know, Reckless Trucker here, he's normally on my my political show on my main channel, The Dark Conservatarian on Strike Force News, but that has been kind of discontinued indefinitely until I get a little bit more of the algorithm going for me, my primary channel. But in the meantime, we are right here on The Dark Sanctum on my secondary channel, and we are going to be talking about nerd shit, basically.
Nerds.
Specifically, we are going to be responding to Quinn's ideas in regards of woke-ism, social justice, whatever the fuck we want to call it nowadays. As beforehand, you remember when it used to have been called like social justice, and now it's been called woke-ism or whatever, Trucker?
Right. Well, wokeism was always used, as far as I remember, to insult it, but they've really taken the insanity and ran with it. So wokeism is perfectly fitting for them.
Right. I mean, I heard the term. I think going back to 2017, even when I heard it on a little skit that Steven Crowder had did of where that he was all like 2016 liberal versus 2012 liberal. You saw that skit, right?
Yeah, I remember that. Freedom Tunes has one of the best ones of it, though.
Right. It was like 2012 or 2008 versus 2016. But in that skit, at the end of it, Steven Crowder's liberal character, the 2016 liberal, goes saying, "Come back to me when you are woke." So
when you've awoken yourself.
It's not that new of a term, but apparently woke has kind of caught on with the within the internet lexicon, whereas SJW has been kind of almost abandoned entirely, it seems. But before we actually get into responding to Quinn's ideas, first to give Loudmouth a little bit of time, as he's like one of the guests that we are expecting a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about some subjects not relating to Dune or Star Trek or Foundation or wokeism. We're going to be talking about some recent movies that we watched.
Right, he's the Star Trek nerd, not the Foundation nerd. All right.
Well, Loudmouth, he knows a whole lot about Dune as well. Or, oh, you were confusing Foundation and Star Trek with one another. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, I've never watched Star Trek, never cared for it at all, honestly.
Okay, I've only really watched DS9 and Voyager in full, personally. None of the older stuff that true Trekkies seem to fawn over. But regardless, Trucker, what's some movies that you have watched recently?
I haven't watched a lot of movies recently. I don't watch. I watched the King Kong versus Godzilla movie.
Oh, that's it? Nothing else new?
What is new right now anyway? I haven't.
Well, there was one movie called Free Guy, which was Ryan Reynolds' most recent movie, and then there's The Suicide Squad, the 2021 version, as opposed to the 2016 version. Those two movies are a couple that I watched myself, and Godzilla vs. Kong, I can't remember if that was early this year or late last year, but either way, that's also a new-ish release as well.
Yeah, I've been meaning to see New Guy, actually. I hear it's really good. And,
You mean Free Guy?
Free Guy. Yeah, Free Guy. And I know for a fact that Jordan Peterson freaking bond over it. So that's always a good thing.
So did Critical Drinker. Actually, he's probably the main person that got me interested to want to actually see it, because as the time went later and later on, my interest for the movie kind of dwindled. At first, I had some interest when I saw the trailers for it, but then time went on, I was losing interest until Critical Drinker released his own review of it. And just the title itself, he was giving a somewhat of a rousing endorsement of it. So I was all like, maybe I should go ahead and check this out. And then afterwards, I'll watch Critical Drinker's review. I tried to do my own review of Free Guy, but it ended up too wordy, and I'm thinking on scrapping that recording actually and doing a new one. I mean, this is Free Guy. It doesn't need to be 16 minutes. Just 6 to 7 minutes is all that's needed. I mean, Critical Drinker was able to keep it down to 6 minutes. If he can do it, so can you, Zach. So come on.
Well, to be fair, Critical Drinker is a damn pro at this. Like, I don't know what's up with Critical Drinker. He is very skillful at quickly deciphering and destroying a movie.
Right, and also can write together a comprehensible and short and snappy script for a movie review.
Right, he's just so good at it. Like, he really is.
Right.
Hello.
So one question that I have for you, actually, who's the better movie reviewer, Mahler or Drinker?
If you want to say, I think they're both equally skilled, honestly. It's just Mahler makes like 3-4 hour videos, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I guess there is the issue of time. Drinker's reviews would be more for you if you're into those short videos as opposed to those long man videos, as apparently that's a meme with Mahler. Long man
Oh,
bad,
God.
stuff like
3-4 hour. I will watch some of them, and his review of Endgame was pretty good. I loved that.
Endgame, don't you mean Infinity War? Because I'm pretty sure he did a live stream about Endgame, but Infinity War is the one that he did a full, like, 40, 50-minute review of it.
Yeah, and he loved it. And
yeah,
he did a great, and also his Star Wars Destruction series. So good.
Right. His Black Panther review is pretty good, but I gotta say that overall, I think I like Drinker better than Mahler, mostly because his videos are snappier and he has a wider variety as far as stuff that he reviews. Whereas Mahler, it seems that he'll like have 3 live streams about the same piece of media out there being released. Like he has 2 or 3 live streams all devoted to Loki, for example, and it. Sometimes if you can find some various different opinions on the internet to respond to, some various different talking points that have varying different levels and types of hilarity and lolcow-ishness to them, well then fine, more power to you. But there comes a point of when that if you do a live stream devoted towards one movie a little bit too much, too many live streams more specifically, then it can get kind of benign, to be quite honest. Whereas Drinker, he'll have a little bit more variety.
Yeah, especially like the fact that his videos and his live streams are hours long.
Right, it's talking about Mahler. Yeah, that kind of drains times. And also, I also like Drinker better than Mahler because, as well, Drinker is a little bit more of an optimist when it comes to movie as compared to Mahler. I mean, they're both kind of pessimistic about movies. I mean, you'll hear Drinker explicitly say that the state of movies is pretty bad, but with an individual movie, he is not as quick to give it an ass reaming than Mahler. Like, for example, this is actually the quintessential example, but that differentiates them too, is Mandalorian. Mahler and Rags and some of the other co-hosts of his like freaking hate Mandalorian for some innocuous reason, whereas Drinker, he has a bit of more of a fair opinion of it.
Yeah, I think they don't like Mandalorian because for them it's like a love-hate thing. They grew up loving Star Wars all their lives, and now they're afraid that anytime they praise Star Wars, they're just going to get slapped in the face like an abusive ex.
They're going to get slapped in the face by their fan bases, or they're going to
No,
get
no, no, no.
by Disney.
Yeah, Disney's going to do something instantly afterwards to make them regret praising Disney,
Right. I guess there is that bit of dialogue that I do recall somewhat of Mahler going on about, Mahler and Rags and the rest of their co-hosts going on about. They're all like, oh, so you got abused beforehand, using the abuse analogy. You got abused beforehand with the sequel trilogy and with the Solo movie. As Solo is still kind of split. They are the opinion of disliking that specific movie, I think.
Oh, Solo's awful. I hate it.
Right. So you got abused beforehand, and now you're going to say that this mediocre series is good just because you compare it purely to the sequel trilogy? No, that's bad praxis right there. And it's all like, come on, lighten up, you guys.
No, fair enough. Lighten up. Praxis. Ugh. But yeah, no, like lighten up, guys. About it, I agree 100%. But also, like, I understand where they're coming from. Like, cause it's gotta suck to be a major Star Wars nerd these days.
Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, I watched Free Guy recently, and I thought that it was decent. I'm not going to give it any real spoilers. I mean, this isn't really spoiler-worthy material, but there's a whole lot of arguments within the movie that was going on about how that big-time video game corporations, they will just overshadow the small indie game developers, and they just get away scot-free with whatever. And also at the same time bringing out all these subpar crappy games that are all glitchy and buggy and whatnot, and just making sequels and spin-offs of the original successful titles that they had already released and not really doing anything new. Whereas the indie video game developers, they will try to crank out something new, but they cannot be successful with cranking out something new because of the fact that their big-time corporate competition is like overshadowing them and stomping them out, essentially. So that's probably the biggest thing that was most impressive to me about the movie. Other than that, I thought that the character interactions, they weren't as good as the Suicide Squad, in my opinion. Nothing really particularly stuck out. I mean, I guess except between the main boyfriend and girlfriend. And I'm not referring to Free Guy, but anyway, what were you about to say, Trucker?
Well, I understand that. I'm just surprised. You're saying that the Suicide Squad movie was decent?
I'm talking about the 2021 version, not the 2016 version.
I know, but the other one was such a colossal failure. I can't imagine it ever being good,
Well, the general consensus is that for people that have seen it anyways, because unfortunately not a lot of people have seen the Suicide Squad 2021 because I guess people were tired of the fact that this was already released in 2016, but they decided to do a remake. But for those that have seen it, people are rather impressed and go saying, yeah, it's considerably better than 2016. I mean, it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy.
You could crap in my hand and smear it in my eyes, and it would be better than the 2016 one.
Yep. But nonetheless, the character interactions, they were very dynamic throughout the 2021 Suicide Squad movie, and they were the dialogue between all of them. I mean, you've seen some of the trailers, like particularly the R or restricted trailers as well. So obviously there was going to be a whole lot of funny banter to be listened to throughout that movie. And not to mention, there's a whole lot of plot twists to that movie that overall kind of worked in Ultimatum of Things. Whereas Free Guy, there wasn't really any impressive plot twists. I guess they were wanting to keep it a whole lot more simple, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but all the same, I thought that because the Suicide Squad decided to do plot twists is the one other thing that makes it a little bit better than Free Guy, in my opinion. And this is without
the commercials I've seen. The commercials I've seen for Suicide Squad, the new one, look really good. I do have to say, I really like that they brought out like Polka Dot Man, who he's always ever just been made fun of as like the weakest person ever. Yet he's actually got some surprisingly good skills.
He ultimately does kick some butt whenever he does it in the 2021 Suicide Squad. Just a little FYI for you.
Yeah, no, like the old Batman cartoon, not the old one, but one of the older ones. The Brave and the Bold, that one. Polka Dot Man and Calendar Man were always like memed on as, you know, just crappy villains that were never any good. And it's like, well, if you try to play Polka Dot Man and Calendar Man like any other villain, yes, but otherwise, no, they can be surprisingly good.
Yeah, I can't really blame people. The concept itself does sound very hammed up and too cheesy to be believably good, but they did manage to pull it off with Polka Dot Man in this movie, which that's another thing that this movie impressed me in, is that it actually got me somewhat invested in Polka Dot Man.
Really, like he actually has character. Well, somebody like him better have character, because
he does have character.
Because even though he can be a rather cool and threatening villain, he is still limited, even at his best.
Now, I will say that there is only really two cons that I can mention about Suicide Squad.
Oh, wait, real quick. What? In the fact that they brought out the starfish. Oh, what was his name? Star U or something?
I don't know. You're talking about the starfish monster, though, right?
Yes, I love that they brought that guy out. That character in the comic books has been a very serious threat to all villains. I mean, all heroes. But they've never been willing to really translate him to the big screen because, it's a starfish.
Well, they did it. And I'm no spoilers, but there is some little bit of investability that you get into the starfish as well. You'll understand what I'm talking about when you go to actually watch a movie yourself, which I have a feeling that it's out of the theaters at this point. You might have to see if you can rent it out somewhere or whatever at this point.
All right.
But nonetheless, there are only really two cons that I can point out about the movie personally. One is a joke that they were really building up for that I did not think really landed that well. And I'm not going to explain it because that'd be also spoiler material explaining it. The second one is there are times when I thought that it was a little bit too gory. Like, I got myself, was that really necessary? Come on. But other than that, the action was fun to watch, and the character dynamics and dialogue was all fun to listen to and watch, and the story was intriguing as well, and you actually get invested in a lot of the characters, whereas Free Guy did not have that as much. The only thing that Free Guy has over Suicide Squad is the whole analogy of big video game corporations versus small indie video game creators. And
I like that Ryan Reynolds is doing these more, I don't know how to say, character driven, maybe. I don't know how you would classify these characters he's been doing lately. Like Deadpool is almost purely character driven, even though the show itself isn't. It's very gore and violence driven.
Right.
And on top of that, like when he played Pikachu, he had to be right. That was amazing. Also, I recently watched Everything Great about Detective Pikachu, and I realized the scene in which Pikachu is fighting Charizard, when Charizard's about to eat Pikachu, and he goes Pika Pika, that was actually Ryan Reynolds, because usually when they have him do the Pika Pika, it's the original voice actor, and I'm just like, they got Ryan Reynolds to do a Pika Pika voice, and it's hilarious and adorable, but at the same time, it's Ryan Reynolds, so extra hilarious.
Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu, it kind of sells itself. That was the main selling point for Detective Pikachu for me.
Oh, and it was surprisingly genius casting because he did so good.
But now that Ryan Reynolds is no longer Detective Pikachu, his character's no longer inside Detective Pikachu's body. I do not know what they're going to be doing about any live-action Pokemon movies. Maybe they'll have someone else like take the place of being that witty, hot, or not necessarily hot shot, but that witty, aggravated, comedic relief kind of character, in the same way that Ryan Reynolds was as Detective Pikachu. Like maybe
Right. Well,
of Team Rocket, for example.
dude, they need to just, the team that did that and the writers that did that, they need to just give them free reign over the Pokemon movie franchise, because visually that movie was as stunning and as perfect as you can get, you know, especially when you're making these, like the opening scene when you scroll over a small town and there's the ranch with the what were they called, the buffalo Pokemon, the Tauros, and
I don't know what exactly.
and then you see the Pidgeys.
Pokemon.
Just, it was a Tauros. It was a basically just a buffalo with 3 tails. You know. Anyway, like, it was visually everything you wanted from Pokemon. You start out in a small town with a small town feel and small town Pokemon farm, and then you go to the big city. Going to the big city should have been a slow journey, but still. Anyway, and you could tell that team loves Pokemon. Everybody involved does, and it was as perfect a Pokemon movie as you can get. And that's without even looking at the story, which respected the history of the Pokemon story.
So I guess Mewtwo wasn't always a villain?
Well, Mewtwo was a villain, sort of. He was somebody who, he was grown in a lab, and all his first friends were literally murdered. So, you know, he ended up really messed up in the head. You know, that's, you know,
because
as you would.
Because my thing about the Detective Pikachu movie that kind of caught me off guard is that the actual Mewtwo character was not a bad guy at all. It was whoever was mind controlling him that was the bad guy.
Right. Well, for example, in the Pokemon 2000 movie where Mewtwo first premieres, he was the villain. But remember, at the end of it, the reason he was a villain is he was convinced that no humans could actually love Pokemon. They all just used them. And because that was his experience, other than the one girl who he telepathically communicated while in a fetus. And and Ash sacrificing his own life for Pikachu is what made him change his mind and decide, hey, I'm kind of a bad person, so I'm just going to screw off and do my own thing away from humans.
So I guess when they do make a Pokemon sequel, they're going to have to find some kind of story arc to where that portrays Mewtwo getting seeing even more of an uglier side to humanity, because the most ugliest that he has seen so far of humanity ever since his creation was the people who are trying to mind control him. But the one guy, the son of Ryan Reynolds' character, he turns out to actually be a good guy, and he ends up being, you know, acting like a good guy too as well at the same time. So far he has like a mixed opinion about humans at best.
Well, if they do make a sequel to that, I don't want them to include Mewtwo at all. Because really Mewtwo should be left as somebody that screws off and does his own thing somewhere in the world. He creates his own little paradise for him and his friends, you know? What they really ought to do next, and I would just lose my mind over, is if they adapted the Pokemon Forever movie. You know, or at least bits and parts of that story. Or the Pokemon game where you have to catch the dark Pokemon. Oh, that was so good.
Right. So I don't know if there was anything more to say. I think that's where we'll put a pin in that conversation, unless there's some more you wanted to say, Trucker.
Not really, although I got to ask about the in the new Suicide movie. What's up with that the Idris Elba character? Is he dead? Is he Deadshot?
No, he's supposed to be a new character called Bloodsport. So apparently you got Deathstroke, Bloodshot, and Bloodsport. Like these three different gun-toting sort of anti-hero characters within the DC universe, apparently. But yeah, in my opinion, that's another thing. I think that Idris Elba, like portraying this sort of how do I put it, like a gun-toting man's man type of character, I guess, a jaded man's man kind of character. I think Idris Elba does a better job of portraying that sort of character archetype than Will Smith. So I was a little bit more impressed with Idris Elba's character than Will Smith's character. That's another thing that I have to give a plus to 2021 over 2016.
Well, I don't know much about this Bloodshot character, honest truth. I really don't. But when it comes to Deathstroke, oh god, it was Deathstroke they had him play, wasn't it? Will Smith?
No, Deathstroke was not in either of the two movies.
Oh, okay, I thought so. All right, I'm just getting derpy. Deadpool, Deadshot. What's his name? Anyway, that character is somebody who is a family man who also happens to be a horrible person outside of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So Will Smith wasn't a horrible choice for that role if he could portray being a bad person convincingly, which let's be honest, that's just not something Will Smith can do. He cannot play the bad guy at all.
Not really. I mean, otherwise he ends up doing a Cyphus from After Earth, or whatever the fuck his character name was from After Earth. Being
an asshole is the closest thing to being the bad guy he could ever do.
And pull a Wild Wild West.
Right, and even then he didn't really do that, you know? Like he didn't really play a bad guy, or he wasn't really good at playing an asshole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunate thing about Will Smith, he isn't able to actually play a bad guy or an effective anti-hero. He's just sort of the chaotic good guy at best.
Right. No, yeah, he's great as a not morally perfect but good person, like in Wild Wild West. I loved him in that.
Or in Men in Black.
Right, and what was what was that cop movie he was in?
Bright, was it called?
No, Bad Boys.
Oh, okay, yeah, I never seen Bad Boys. I thought you were talking about Bright, the one where he teams up with an orc cop.
Oh, I'm sure that the commercials alone for that were so painful.
Like, I haven't seen it personally, but you were saying?
Oh, I didn't watch Bright either, just the commercials. Orc lives don't matter. And I'm just instantly this movie's awful. And I never saw a single good review from it, not even from the woke types. But anyway, in Bad Boys, he was great as just a silly cop who doesn't really play by the rules, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But he cannot be a bad guy. It's not who he can play.
Right. Yeah, but Idris Elba, he pulls it off. All his dialogue to his daughter about, I mean, this is at the beginning, so not real spoiler material, but he has a conversation with his daughter, telling her seriously, you don't want to be like me. I've done some terrible things in my life. But you'll just have to see it for yourself. I highly recommend it, Trucker.
All right, no, and I'm convinced Idris Elba could play any character that has to be solemn and weighty, and he could do it.
Right.
Because the Gunslinger movie, the Stephen King ones, the Towers,
the Dark Tower.
Yeah. Wow. not good movies by any measure at all.
Right.
The best part of that movie was Idris Elba.
Right, and he was ultimately in the Dark Tower. That was like a bit of a race bend. Originally, the gun-toting guy was supposed to be a white guy in the Dark Towers, but somebody for some reason decided to cast Idris Elba in that part.
He was supposed to be a Clint Eastwood character. He was supposed to be a Clint Eastwood character, basically. He was basically a man with no name.
Okay. So anyway, are we ready to get down to the subject of the video here?
I sure am, honey.
All right. So since it's been like 30 minutes and a half that we've gone talking about other things that are not about the title subject of this live stream, I'm going to have to put a timestamp down below in the comment section in case anybody goes watching this and goes asking, when the fuck are you going to talk about Quinn's ideas? Or whatever.
This is false advertising.
But nonetheless, hope you enjoyed the opening dialogue. I think we've given Loudmouth some decent amount of time. Hopefully he can join at a somewhat of a later point. But for right now, I think that we might just go ahead and get started. I mean, this is kind of like what Mahler does with his EFAP podcast. Like they'll spend 15 to 30 minutes talking about stuff unrelated, and then they'll get down to the title subject of their live stream. But anyway, so let me put it forth succinctly. Quinn's ideas. I by no means dislike, much less hate, Quinn's ideas. In fact, when the trailers started coming out for the new Dune movie that is coming out this year, and I'm going to be having a full live stream reviewing that movie when it comes out, by the way, which you are fully welcome to join that one, Trucker. In fact, I encourage it, you along with Loudmouth. But ever since that movie started getting trailers out, I got thinking to myself, oh, this is fascinating. We're fresh new sci-fi property. Well, not really fresh because David Lynch tried to do it in the 80s, and plus it's a book series. But nonetheless, something that is not Star Wars or Marvel. Finally, something refreshing.
Right.
Not Star Trek as well. So I got more of an interest in Dune, and I gone searching up lore about the Dune universe, yada yada. And Quinn's ideas, his channel being pretty much almost entirely about Dune, but sci-fi in general, but in large part about Dune, he turned out to be the one whose videos that I watched the most. And because I found them really in depth, I gone ahead and subscribed to him. He's even like the source that I most know about Dune. Like I know the first four stories actually, mostly because of Quinn's ideas, quick summaries of the books. Like I'm not that strong a reader. I could not, for the life of me, get into actually sit down and reading a full book. I had to listen to an audio book or listen to a bit of a summary, as Quinn's ideas does. But to make a long summation long, nonetheless, I don't dislike him. But still, this video right here really bugged the ever-living shit about me. I saw the title, Has Science Fiction Gone Woke? Dune, Foundation, and Star Trek. And I was asking myself, what exactly is his bent in the whole culture wars and political debates regarding these sort of subjects? So I watched it, and he tries to play a bit of a fence sitter, but it seems almost that he leans more towards the left a little bit on this subject.
He leans hard left on the subject. Hard left. Like there's no way. Like I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar this guy was one of those whole like Trump is Hitler people. I'd be willing to bet.
I don't know. I'm going to hold off on that opinion because I haven't seen any evidence of him thinking that. But I don't think I think that might be a little bit unfair because if he was really hard left, he probably would have joined the rest of the crowd in saying that Dune is a white savior type of movie. But I don't think he really he actually gone against those type of people. Only
thing that I think kept him from doing that was actually knowing Dune. Maybe.
But irregardless, I still do not think that he is that far on the left. So I'm going to be a little bit more fair to Quinn right here. But what really kind of perturbs me about this video the most is that he ends up like pulling a straw man archetype, whatever you want to call it, low-hanging fruit character in this video of somebody that is meant to represent the right, the anti-SJWs. You know, organism, whatever the fuck number of the planet Trolleon is supposed to represent anti-SJWs. He does not make up any straw man type of character that represents the far left SJWs who think that it's a bad idea to have.
But why make a straw man of what you are?
Maybe that's to grant the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that is a little bit of evidence that he does, that he might be of that kind of leaning, of that position, but he doesn't want to reveal it because he doesn't want to alienate the right-leaning people within his fan base. Which, to be to his credit, he hasn't totally alienated me. Like, see, still subscribed, but I did dislike this one particular video.
No, I'm sure when he doesn't dive into politics, he's a perfectly good YouTuber and everything. It's just you can tell politics isn't his thing.
Oh yeah. No denying it, which we'll get more into that a little bit later. And there's also this one video that I just noticed being recommended to me right now. Trolls lose their minds over Dune 2020. And if this stream does not go super long, maybe we'll take a look at that as well. I don't know. Maybe I should have I did not know this video existed until I pulled up the browser for this video right here that I was originally having to respond to, which this video was like released over a year ago, but I only watched it within the last 2 months. And I've been planning ever since the first time I watched it, listened to it, whatever, that I was wanting to do a response stream to this. But I'd never come across this video. Now that I'm coming across this other video right here on the side, maybe it would have been a little bit more worth featuring in a live stream, but whatever, fuck it. Here we are right now.
We can EFAP style that video.
Right. We can EFAP style both videos, for that matter.
Ew, it's just a bunch of fapping all around, I guess.
I wonder if that's intentional, the fact that Mahler decided to call his streams EFAP.
Oh, there's no way that isn't intentional.
But nonetheless, without further ado, let's get into this. I decided to skip the first 2 minutes as it's just him with his opening script or skit, whatever. So without further ado, take it away, Quinn.
So we were going to focus on the capital world of Asimov's galactic empire, Trantor, today. But since we've had the intrusion, I think we'll focus on a different topic.
Science fiction gone woke.
Let me say, I don't think it's a great idea to respond to the Asimov part, because I've literally never read Asimov ever.
Yeah, maybe we will try to skip most of it as much as possible, but I think there might have been one point within it that I thought was worth responding to, or maybe I'll try to skip it as much as possible when we get to it. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And honestly, even though a whole lot of the Dune, his summation of Dune, I don't see being that respondable. So there might be some portions of watching this video where we just like let it play out without really responding to anything. But I'm going to try my best to pause it in between and give some semblance of a commentary, just so for the sake of not breaking fair use. Just FYI here, people. But anyway, let's get on with it.
To answer the question, has science fiction gone woke, we first have to answer the question, what does woke even mean? I have noticed personally that there are a few distinct ways in which people use this word, and 2 very distinct ways in which I can identify most clearly. The first is in a positive sense. In this sense, the word woke refers to a person that is aware and resistant to the various social disparities of society. The other way I see it used is in the pejorative.
Real quick, right there. That positive sense he laid out, that's the part that makes me definitively believe this guy's a hard leftist, because nobody actually cares about equity or disparities unless they are a leftist. Because frankly, the fact that poor people exist and rich people do, which is what he's referring to, is something that should not matter to anybody.
Yeah,
You know?
unless you want to like do some kind of private sector activism, like set forth a charity fund or something like that. But we know that that's not always what turns out to be the case. A whole lot of people that go
It's
complaining
never
about
what it
racial.
turns out to be the case.
Well, I don't know. There might be like some anecdotes if I was to like look hard enough, or somebody watching this live stream right now wanted to pull out. But nonetheless, it does turn out to be that most of the time, or a good portion of the time at least, that anybody who goes caring about racial disparities, they want to put forth some kind of government policy or legislation or whatever, like, black people nowadays are poor because of past, even way past circumstances. Therefore, we need to enact reparations. Therefore, we need to start being racist and have some or have some legislative bias towards white people or whatever. Like,
Well,
with
as
critical
Abram
race
X. Kendi would say, discrimination today to right the wrongs of discrimination in the past.
Right, exactly. What I was trying to essentially get at. That's one thing, and another example would be Richard Delgado and Jean Stefanczyk in their introduction to critical race theory. There's one point in which that they gone saying that there are like this one section of critical race theory advocates who go advocating, or who are like racial nationalist types, like black nationalist types, who believe that within public school systems within the inner city, we need to they need to make it so that those schools are biased against the white people, essentially.
The white man.
Yeah. So, and they weren't even like speaking against it. Like Delgado and Stefanczyk in that video, they weren't even like arguing against it. So it gives me the implication that they are okay with that kind of advocacy. Like if that is falls rather squarely within critical race theory. So, yeah. I don't think there's anything more that I wanted to say, so I'm going to just continue.
Alrighty.
It used is in the pejorative sense, wherein wokeness is viewed as a form of virtue signaling, a kind of pretentious way of appearing as though you care about social issues when you really don't.
Right. For example, trying to race bend or gender bend a character while sacrificing character development. Like,
Right.
what definition of woke do you use more of the time, Trucker? The pejorative sense, I take it?
I will never use the positive sense because it is just such cringe to be like, I've
Right.
woken up. I can see what's really out there. Wake up, sheeple.
Right. I mean,
that's all that is.
before woke and even social justice were even terms that we regularly use within our political sphere, before that, you know what we called that sort of thing? Civil rights. Way back in the 60s, I don't think there's anybody that called them anything except for civil rights. Had the government recognize black people equally to white people.
Well, there's a reason they have to use a different term, and it's because they're not for civil rights, and they know it.
Right.
They use social justice because it's something that if you don't know what it means, it sounds similar to civil rights.
And on that point, I will never use the word woke or social justice warrior in a positive sense either myself. I will just plainly use the term civil rights or egalitarianism even, although the word egalitarianism seems to have two different meanings as well. One way of using it is a sort of sock dem or Keynesian economic way of using the word, in that we need to make people equal economically. And then there's another sense of the word that people like Common Sense Guy, for example, uses the word, and that recognize all races and genders and whatnot, blah, 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 equally with one another under the law.
Right. Well, the thing is, if you try to do anything besides under the law, you're definitely a bad person. You're an authoritarian. And anything that goes beyond under the law will always end and put people up against the wall. I guarantee it.
But what
It
if
always
somebody
has.
says that you deserve to die under or according to the law?
Hey, depends on what crime they committed.
Well, no, I'm just making the point that I do not know if I agree with your terminology, or if I thought that was like succinct enough to make your point. I think I get what you're trying to say, Trucker, but I do not know if it like translates to everybody who might be listening to this live stream right now or in the future.
But what I mean is, anytime that you go beyond under the law or under God, it requires enforcement. If it requires enforcement by the state, there's always the logical end conclusion is always we will shoot you because it's the state. That's what the state does at the end of all things.
Or what you're trying to so I guess what you're trying to say is when you start going past one to recognize people equally under the law, and you want to like start recognizing them unequally under the law, that's when things get bad.
Well, when you try to force equality along other measures, like for example, economic lines,
right?
There's only one way to equalize people economically, and
affirmative action.
That's really the only actual way to do that is to kill the rich people and take their money.
Things like affirmative action and anti-business laws of various types, like
right.
Yeah, let's start slowly taking control of business by putting in all these anti-discrimination or anti-right to deny service sort of laws.
Right, and my point on that is, the government, you have no place to do anything besides throwing bodies at something. Keep in mind that's always the government's final solution to something.
Nonetheless, we're kind of getting a little bit off track, but to get back more into the sense of get a little bit more on topic right here, I like to use the word woke in more the pejorative sense, and I think that is really what he's essentially responding to anti-SJWs throughout this video. So he should consistently be using the pejorative sense of the word as opposed to the positive sense of the word. But it almost seems that he kind of flips back and forth between the definitions, or even all the time uses the positive sense of the word in order to respond to anti-SJWs. And I just thought that doesn't seem really fair. I mean, I don't know how to put it exactly.
No, fair enough. And you have to use context clues because he does do that a lot. He does jump between them.
Right. I guess so as well. But I guess we'll just continue on at this point to sort of get the gears in our minds rolling more.
Like Dennis Villeneuve and Apple TV.
Shut up, Organism 9186. Anyway, so to answer the question, has science fiction gone woke, we have to figure out which definition of the word we're actually using.
The pejorative sense, not the positive sense.
Right.
But the problem is, most of the time, I have no idea which version of wokeness that people are referring to. So,
Well, who are you responding to, Quinn? That's the question. Who are you responding to? Is it all SJWs? If that's the case, well, then stick to the pejorative sense of the word. You're saying, Trucker?
Well, this is another thing that makes me think that he's definitely a lefty type, because being like, I have no idea what you're referring to and what you're saying.
And then continue to respond to them, or a straw man of them at least.
Yeah, well, he's conflating both. And wordplay is something that leftist types do. The right wing doesn't play with our words. Words mean what they mean and nothing else.
Hello, Sentman 1000 in the live chat, by the way. I will say that maybe there's an occasion in which the right does that, but the left is even more notorious of playing with words than the right is. Like
the right doesn't do it.
Like trying to change the definition of racist, like beforehand, it used to mean just a prejudice or even a superiority complex against people based off of race. But now it's just prejudice plus power, which is a bit of a bullshit definition.
Oh, it's total bullshit.
I mean, go on.
That's what I mean by they play with words. They change the definition to suit themselves, so that way they always win. And the right doesn't do that. And anybody can say that the right does. If they do, I'm just going to call them a liar.
All right.
No, the right doesn't play with words.
I mean, beforehand, you had like a completely coherent definition of the word racism and racist. But then suddenly when far leftists wanted to be racist against white people, and they were getting called out for their bullshit racism, and they were like, "Oh shit, they got us in a trap. What do we do? Change the definition of racism." Bingo!
You can't be racist to white people.
Yeah, well, I'm not racist because I don't have any power. I am being oppressed by the police, and I am systematically being kept poor, even though I have this Harvard liberal arts degree, and I have been raised with a silver spoon in my mouth in a middle class family or whatever.
Right.
Whatever anecdote that you can come up with, but nonetheless, and I, by extension, on that point, by the way, I just want to point out on the point of Quinn, whether or not he's a far leftist. I don't think Quinn is one of those type of people who wants to use the completely wackadoo definition, non-definition of racism, that being essentially that you can't be racist towards white people. I don't think he's one of those
white man
leftists. I'm pretty sure that if I was to be charitable to Quinn, that he believes that you can be racist towards white people. But if it's shown otherwise, that he believes that you can't be racist towards white people, then yeah, he's a far leftist pretty much at that point.
The white man.
But anyway,
for the purposes of this video, we're just going to discuss both. Now, there are a lot of sci-fi names that people slap the term woke onto, but
he says for the purposes of this video, he says he's going to respond to both, and yet his straw man made-up character, I keep on using the word straw man, but there are some arguments in here that he brings up that I think are real arguments that some minority of people within the anti-SJW spheres might be using, but nonetheless, he creates this sort of made-up character that represents anti-SJWs, but he doesn't create a made-up character that represents SJWs and wokesters, So,
right. Well, plus that, and even with the arguments that he does use, that people actually use, he uses the lowest possible denominator form of them. You'll see it in a bit.
Right. Here,
there are ways of wording arguments. Well,
right.
It's like when I debated Ham, and Nightcrawler was on there beforehand.
Nightcrawler. It's Night Shift that does it.
Night Shift, Nightcrawler. Night Shift was on there beforehand.
I'm gonna have to wait. I'm gonna have to nickname Night Shift on my Discord server to Nightcrawler now, since you done that, trucker.
I'm sorry, Nightcrawler, Night Shift boy.
Genius. But you were saying though.
Anyway, there was arguments that he was making that were valid arguments, but he didn't give enough information through them, so they sounded so they didn't come out right. And so I could make the same argument with Ham, and Ham would lose a shit.
Right.
Not to take away from Shift, because he actually did some really good arguments. It's just there were some cases where I had clearly spent more time on those arguments than he had.
Right. I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to do one thing whilst at the same time trying to listen to you.
Gonna call him Nightcrawler.
Right? Yeah. I just did the nickname in the Discord server. That's genius, trucker. Anyway,
for the purposes of this video, I will stick to the ones I know best: Dune and Foundation, and maybe
mention
a little bit of Star Trek later on.
Right. I paused too soon there, but anyway.
Let's start with Foundation, since we're already going to talk about it anyway. So as Organism mentioned, Asimov's Foundation is being adapted into a TV series, which
I think the point that there was one particular point that I wanted to respond to him in the middle of this, but for the sake of time, I'm going to try and speed it up as best as I can.
Makes me excited because Asimov's Foundation books are some of my favorite science fiction books to read. I've mentioned before, Asimov's classic sci-fi series.
Might want to slow that down.
Okay, yeah, and that might be a little bit too fast. 1.25.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Galactic civilization with 25 million inhabited worlds. In Asimov's Foundation books, there is a strong emphasis on human conflict being resolved without violence. One of Asimov's most famous quotes state, "Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent." The book Prelude to Foundation states that the capital world of Trantor...
Real quick.
Go on.
Right there. violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. No, he's wrong. Just simply put, he's wrong. Because,
I mean, question: were the Japanese incompetent in that case? Now that you mention it,
no, they were very good. They were very competent people.
right?
The hell was that sound?
They just gone up, rolling in with the planes at the attack of Pearl Harbor, for example. They did not. They did it as the first action, not as the last action. And so we got here with us some loudmouth on the internet with an opinion. What's up, loudmouth?
Hey,
Yeah,
Loud, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Love you, Loudmouth.
Love you too.
Yay.
So what were you saying, though, Trucker, about the one quote by Asimov there, though?
No, the reason that in a utopian world, that quote would make sense, but we don't live in utopia, and anybody that believes utopianism is possible is a joke. And the reason is because there will always be people who disagree with you to the level of violence. That's just just reality. And if you don't respond with violence, with self-defense, then frankly, you're going to die. And that for all intents and purposes, the guy who disagreed with you and killed you wins the argument because, well, now you're dead. Not like you get to try your thing out.
Wasn't it Justin Trudeau who said, if you kill your enemies, they win?
Yes, it was. Oh, I love that.
Good on you. Oh, blame Canada.
Blame Canada.
If you kill your enemies, they win.
Yes.
Yeah, Trudeau actually said that.
He actually did.
Right.
Like, look, I have plenty of Canadian friends. One of my favorite content creators outside of YouTube is a Canadian. Goddamn, their government is funny.
I feel like to argue devil's advocate, though. I mean, sorry that I am like playing devil's advocate for the soyiest of soy boys, that being Justin Trudeau, but nonetheless, could he be possibly referring to the fact that you resort to violence first makes you look bad in the history books in the future, and so therefore that's how you lost?
The context.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Loudmouth.
I said, yeah, that's probably what he was trying to say about the whole "if you kill your enemies, they win" was his quote.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing was the context of the quote was referring to, the Middle East after 9/11. He was talking about ISIS and Al Qaeda, and it's like,
you know what? With the one point that I made to try and explain Trudeau's quote, though, it doesn't really line up right there, because even after they had attacked the World Trade Center and whatnot, the Muslim terrorists, they still end up looking somewhat empathetic to a whole lot of people here in the Americas and Western culture. Like nowadays, you have Muslim empathies at their highest than they ever had been before with some of the far left crowds. I'm not going to say that there is a super majority of people who are all like, oh yeah, the Taliban are victims, so therefore we should do nothing about them. But you still have the Jimmy Dores and the Ilhan Omars of the world that are running around in the Western world.
oh yeah, no, they act like we're the bad guys, and it's like, no, the people throwing gays off buildings are the bad guys. I don't care what you say.
Right. And by the way, I'm actually still in the middle of listening to the live stream of where that Sitch and Adam, they responded to Jimmy Dore, who was literally arguing for the Taliban or these other countries in general. Well, actually, Jimmy Dore was responding to Bill Maher. Bill Maher was trying to argue as to why the United States is not as bad as the far left makes it out to be. And Jimmy Dore was all like, but you want to compare us to all these Middle Eastern countries. The only reason why they're so bad, the only reason why they do all these immoral atrocities is because the United States did it for them or made them do it or whatever.
Yes, we made Muslims throw acid on their wives' and daughters' faces. Sure.
Right. Anyway, to get back on subject,
I mean, I think it was all Benny Gesserit plot from the beginning.
Nope.
right.
I love you, loudmouth.
The Benny Gesserit thousands of years ago obviously manipulated, put in the myth that the Taliban would form, and thus it became a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is the Benny Gesserit that controls America and controls Joe Biden, so that we are like spineless towards China and whatnot.
Exactly.
To be fair, you don't need a lot of mental power to control Joe Biden.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Benny Gesserit's they've been doing the voice on Biden and Xi Jinping, and it's all becoming a massive clusterfuck.
Oh God, wait? Who would be the Benny Gesserit then? The Benny Gesserit agent, Kamala Harris?
Yeah, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is clearly a Benny Gesserit agent. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but the Benny Gesserit are usually competent.
Well, Kamala Harris, she's not liked, but she still clearly is at least more competent than Biden, anyways.
To be fair, nobody likes the Benny Gesserit.
Right. In spite of the Joker-like laugh that she has, there is still a sign of a higher competence in her than in Joe Biden.
That's her using the voice to manipulate the anchors. That's why they all like her.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Oh.
And that's why over camera it doesn't work and it just looks awkward.
I love this. I love this. But I love this joke and reference analogies that you guys are doing. But anyway, so I think we're going to...
But back to Quinn reviews, I watched a lot of his content. I really like his content. I think he's a really talented guy.
Did you watch this video?
Not all the way through. I watched the first part of it. I'm not saying I agree with him on everything, but I've watched a lot of his stuff, and most of it is really damn good. The guy knows his shit when it comes to science.
Oh yeah, I understand, and I'm completely in the same ballpark as you, Loudmouth. That Quinn seems to be overall a nice guy, but when he dips his toe in politics, it just seems that he has this sort of incompetence with the issue, to where that it comes off as being kind of slimy almost.
Well, it's not. It's not his passion. His passion is clearly in science fiction, but he really like his videos on Dune and like the George R.R. Martin books. They're really damn good stuff.
No, I'm sure if I were to do a purely sci-fi debate, I'd get my ass kicked.
Oh yeah, he kicked my ass too, because I haven't read most of the Dune, particularly not all the Brian Herbert books. There's so many of them. I haven't read most of them.
I can't remember that. Read The Butler and Jihad. It sets up so much in such a good way.
There's like a book devoted entirely to the Butlerian Jihad.
Yeah, that's when the robots took over.
Right.
Yeah, that was by the author's son, Frank Herbert. I think he wrote about it a little bit, but he never managed to write the novel completely. He planned to write a seventh Dune book after the sixth one, but he died before he could finish it.
Yeah, well, pretty much all the books that his son published are essentially the pulling together of thousands of notes and lore content that were never published, and then weaving them together in a way that hopefully his dad would like.
Right. So he got all the way up and finished the fifth book, and after that soon after that he had died.
Sixth book.
Chapter
House was the last one. It came out in 1985, and then a year later in 1986, Frank Herbert was dead.
So there was Dune, then Dune Messiah, then Children of Dune, then God Emperor of Dune.
God Emperor!
What was the fifth one called?
Heretics of Dune.
Heretics of Dune, and then, damn it, you just said it right here on live stream. Chapter House. For some reason,
the funny thing is, I've read them all, but I cannot remember where the narratives like begin and end in each book, other than the first one, because they all they weave together really well, like kind of like how the Lord of the Rings trilogy does.
Yeah, right. They're very complex. Like Frank Herbert will often state something that you will have to have really be steeped in his mythology to understand. Because if I just take a quote from the middle of it and read it to someone who's not familiar, it would sound like complete gibberish. Because he really trusts that the audience are following his story from the beginning.
Right.
Oh well, if you don't know the Baron, for example, when the daughter gets taken over, you'd be like, "What the fuck? Why'd she suddenly become a slut?"
Right?
Yeah, the fact that like her grandfather's voice was like encouraging her to have sex with this young guy because, of course, the Baron was gay.
Guys, spoilers.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
I-
fuck.
no,
I
I'm totally
apologize.
joking. By the way, I
No
haven't.
spoiler. Sorry for the spoilers. You're right. That is a spoiler.
Well, yeah. I mean, not. I have. I know that little factoid, but people who might be watching this, they might be anticipating the Dune movie and be looking forward to the possibility of looking at Children of Dune, an adaptation of that.
Well, it would have to get several sequels because keep in mind this is only based on the first half of the first novel. So
Yeah.
I think if I heard right, the intent of Denis Villeneuve is that he's going to make a part 1 and part 2 of the first book, and then the second book he's going to do all in one movie.
Dune Messiah is a shorter book, so you could probably do it pretty well in like a really lengthy, like 3-hour movie. Yeah.
Dune Messiah, is that the book in which the children come to?
Well, they're born at the end of the book.
Oh yeah.
That's
No,
the
dude,
one that-
I need to reread it because in my brain everything is conglomerated into one giant book.
That's the one of where that illustrates the fall of Paul Atreides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one he's basically desperately clamoring to keep everything going in a way that doesn't end in the death of humanity, basically. And he's just driving himself insane trying to do that.
And ultimately, by the end of it, he just becomes a hermit in the deserts of Arrakis and just leaves the entire empire up to his little baby sister. Who's not a baby now at this point in the movie or the book, obviously.
By then.
What?
Yeah, she'd be 16 by then.
Oh.
What is it? There's a fun reference in it that kind of makes it clear Frank Herbert's intent with Paul when he's comparing himself against like various leaders of ancient Earth. And they mention Genghis Khan, Julius Caesar, and Emperor Hitler. You think? And he mentions that his jihad has killed 61 billion people throughout the galaxy. And Paul says something about, you think Emperor Hitler cared?
Yeah.
Not too
like they're not the good guys.
Is most blatant, where he wasn't being too subtle.
Right.
Yeah, they might be the heroes, but they're not the good guys. Like that's anybody that thinks they are is a fucking idiot.
Well,
by the
Frank
way,
Herbert,
I just want to say that this is
kind of what
awesome...
he's trying to say. He's trying to say hero worship was bad. Basically, that like charismatic leaders, you should be wary of them.
Oh yeah,
right.
That was kind of the biggest overall arcing theme of the entire Dune series.
Well, especially with Paul. Like Paul, especially was hero worship is nothing but collapse.
So what? This might be a conversation for some other time, but
sorry. You did bring nerds together.
Well, no. I understand. I was about. No. I'm stopping myself more than I'm stopping you guys. But I was about to ask a question about the Dune lore, but that might be more of a conversation for some other time. And I think I am going to go ahead and continue with this.
And I gotta say though, I haven't read The Fountainhead of Isaac Asimov's The Fountainhead, so I'm going to be completely lost. I won't be able to say whether he's right or wrong about it at all.
Fountainhead? Don't you mean foundation?
Foundation. Fuck. I'm confusing with Ayn Rand's book.
Oh, wait. Oh, Fountainhead. That was a book by Ayn Rand?
Oh, yeah. That was the architect, right?
Yeah. I actually haven't read it. I did read Atlas Shrugged, which is a really long fucking book. It's hard to get through.
God. If you can read Atlas Shrugged, you are a lord amongst readers.
It's hard to get through that goddamn thing. It's so fucking long, and it didn't need to be that fucking long.
And it's so much of it isn't arbitrary, but is long-winded.
Extremely long-winded. Like, Rand could have really told the story in half as many pages pretty easily.
By the way, I just got to say, Fountainhead, I will not blame you, Loudmouth, because Fountainhead does sound like the title for a sci-fi series. It sounds kind of awesome. Maybe
apologies, I'm being stupid and a very bad nerd.
No. Maybe I'll incorporate.
Bad nerd.
You just gave me an idea. Maybe I'll incorporate that into my own sci-fi universe. Loudmouth, thanks for the idea.
I'll give you.
Everybody on Earth needs their own sci-fi universe.
Right.
I'll give you some information on what a fountainhead is later.
Anyway, I just got to say that is some awesome art. But anyway.
Yeah, that is cool art. It reminds me of like a Dyson sphere, kind of like a scientific concept where someone would like build like the theoretical endpoint of a civilization. When it becomes like a class 2 civilization would be to where in order to build boundless energy to keep its civilization going, it would create kind of a giant system around its host star that would siphon the massive amount of energy from it, which would be massively more than humanity could ever produce. The sun produces more energy every second than all of humanity has done throughout its entire history.
And that includes every bonfire since caveman age to every energy source today.
Yeah, imagine if you could harvest that energy. Imagine what you could do. That's what a Dyson sphere would be for.
There's a literal sci-fi property, sci-fi universe that has incorporated that sort of idea. The idea of creating an entire space station around a sun.
A lot of them have ever since something Dyson came out with that scale.
And there was that talk of actually having found one in reality at this one star 1,300 light years away, where there was this star that something kept passing in front of it that was dimming the light of it by 17%, which is enormous because if, let's say, Jupiter passes in front of our sun, it dims it by less than 1%. What the fuck could be passing in front of this star to dim it by that much? And there were some people who were speculating at the time that it was the beginnings of a Dyson sphere, that we saw the remnants of a civilization that was building one around its star.
Ooh.
But a lot of scientists dispute that, and they say it's more likely just a cluster of like comets. But who knows?
Mysterious.
It is very mysterious. No one really knows for sure exactly what it is.
Somebody needs to play some ominous music of describing that.
Well, keep in mind how dangerous this is, okay? Because it's 1,300 light years away. And as soon as the first Imagine Dragons songs are able to be heard there, they're going to destroy the Earth.
That's radioactive.
Yeah,
Dude, no, that's what I would do.
Destroy the Earth.
That's what I would do if I came in contact with alien species. Genocide them all. Just get rid of them.
What?
They're alien. Yeah. In a heartbeat.
No.
I wouldn't do that.
What?
I would not do that. Was what I was trying to say. I'm saying loud enough that I'm not in agreement with
y'all. You both are less cynical about aliens than I am.
I guess so. But anyway, we were ready to continue on with this video. All right.
Tens of billions of people, and it also states that the world is full of diversity.
Bullshit. Everyone knows diversity was invented in 2015 by liberal elites too.
Okay, that's the point that I wanted to respond to. That is a massive fucking strawman.
That is a strawman.
Every single other point that Quinn brings up, and every single line that he has, organism 6912, whatever the fuck goes speaking, might be just low-hanging fruit and not technically a strawman, but that right there is a flat-out strawman. I don't even think that no bullshit believes that diversity was something that was invented in 2015.
Yeah, no, and no bullshit's the collective IQ of burnt toast.
He is like the quintessential low-hanging fruit of anti-SJWs. Not even he, I think, believes that diversity was invented in 2015. And if Quinn here goes saying that, no, I've actually come across people who unironically say that. I don't think those people unironically say that. I think they might be just trolling. I'm going to call bullshit if he ever says that he actually heard people say stuff like that.
Well, let me give you a great example. If I were to say, for example, that the leftists have a hard time with cervixes and women, everybody would say that I'm doing a straw man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, actually, the entire Labour Party in the UK is having a debate about whether or not women have cervixes.
Yeah.
Wait, what the?
Yeah, they are. Sadly, that is actually true.
I'm sorry, I am a dumbass. But what? Remind me again. What the fuck is a cervix again?
What?
Lady parts, basically.
Dude.
You said baby making parts.
Dude.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I am Totally.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't. God.
Dude.
It's a lady part. It's just know that.
Yes.
Okay.
But
well,
yeah, but if I were to,
you're gonna end up dating a girl named Mervix, and then you'll forget her name, but know that it rhymes with a part of the female anatomy, and then and you'll
call her cervix.
I don't know if you, hope any Seinfeld fans will get the joke I'm making, but
Okay.
Right.
I'll have to like just Google that up myself and read up about it. I think I'm just gonna continue.
yeah, definitely read up on that shit.
I think I think I just made Loudmouth die more than any other time in our interaction with each other. I'm so sorry, Loudmouth.
No, but real quick, my point was, if I were to say that that's an example of all the leftists on the planet, I would be called accused of straw manning.
Right.
But it's something the leftists are actually having an issue with. And it's even dumber. Yeah, and it's even dumber, or just as dumb, as the straw man he's making.
Right. You know what would be the a straw man of the far left if he really wanted to be this middle of the road type of commentator right here? If he pulled in an SJW who's all like, every single character in a franchise should not be a straight white cis male unless they're the villain. Like, why didn't you make that kind of character say that exact kind of line, Quinn? If you really wanted to be this middle of the road, I'm criticizing both sides of the aisle type of commentator right now. But no, you're really just really picking on the right more than anything else right here.
Well, the other part of this
in a kind of unfair way too. But sorry, Trucker.
Well, the other part of this is, and there's a really good point to be made, is that considering how far into the future this is, like if you go only a few thousand years back into the future, modern understandings of racial and ethnic lines does not work. Like ancient Egyptians, even if they were genetically the direct descendants of modern Egyptians, which they aren't, would not be the same ethnicity as they were back then and today. You know, the same racial group. And that's just, genetics change. And this holds true with Dune later on.
Right.
But it's not 20,000 years in the future. And in this universe, different human populations have been isolated on different planets with radically different environments, different probably different gravity and what have you. They probably diverge enough that they would almost look like different species.
Right. It'd be like it'd be more drastic than Neanderthal and Homo sapien.
Oh, significantly more. Because at least Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, they both still evolved in the same planet, same gravity. Imagine those differences on different planets with different gravity. Like an organism, for example, on a planet that's had, say, twice the air pressure and half the gravity of Earth, organisms would be able to take off and fly that on this planet never could. Because the biological cost of taking flight would be far less. Whereas, obviously, if it had greater gravity and thinner air pressure, the opposite would be the case. An organism as small as a mouse would need thick bones like an elephant to support its weight.
And speaking of, you have like at least 3, if not 4 different types of humans that exist within the Dune universe. You have all the Harkonnens that are basically these pasty-ass, white, almost monstrous-looking creatures, but are really at their base humans. Then you have the Interstellar Star Travel Guild. I cannot remember what.
Hey, real quick, we should real quick. We should play. There'll be plenty of opportunity to mention more of this later on. We should hit play because we're not even to the Dune part yet.
Right. Maybe I'll just skip to the Dune part because that was really all that I wanted to address right there within the foundation part. I knew there was one point that I wanted to respond to, and that was it right there. Boo, diversity was invented in 2015. Complete straw man.
That was so dumb.
Bad, Quinn. Bad, Quinn.
Bad.
Learn your fucking political affiliations and politics, dude. But there's the Harkonnens and there's the Spacing Guild, like basically look almost fish-like because they take in so much spice, and plus they live practically all their lives in zero gravity or in space, so therefore it mutates them to look almost fish-like. Then there's regular humans, and then there's the God Emperor, who is just a worm-human hybrid sort of creature for most of his life.
The worm god.
Sorry, what?
My skin is not my own.
Right. I think I am going to. Oh wait. God, he's kind of. I cannot remember. I do not know when it is exactly that he doesn't mention anything more about Foundation.
I did actually I listened to an audiobook, so kind of read iRobot. It was kind of interesting. It had a very kind of rosy view of the role of growing technology, like that robots would be our companions and it would make everything better over time, which I probably have I'm a bit more cynical, so I have more of a dark view of it.
I find it funny that you are more cynical about aliens. You are more cynical about AI than you are aliens, and I'm the exact opposite.
Well, the AI is something that I feel is coming fast, whereas aliens, honestly, I think it's something humanity will probably never encounter. There probably are alien civilizations, but they're so far we'll never see them.
I don't think there. As far as I can tell, there are no aliens. Like, I just don't believe in them. But if aliens do exist, kill them all, Xeno scum.
Dude, no.
Yes, they're aliens.
What is wrong with you, dude?
Dude, humans kill each other. Can you imagine aliens interacting with us?
Even a child alien is about as innocent as a child human.
It's still an alien. Anyway.
Yeah, everything's different is bad.
Look, if it gives me a boner, I might let it live.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do the whole Captain Kirk thing of just well, that is what Movie Blob is angry at the white working class for. We denied him his opportunity to unload his conscience onto a starship, and
oh god, that was
fucking hot chicks.
That was one of the greatest I'm butthurt tweets I've ever seen. That was wonderful. I haven't boned a blue-skinned alien, babe. How dare you, Republicans? It's like, really? That's the Republicans' fault?
Metal Minister in the live chat says someone wants to find a hot alien waifu.
Just imagine him going into his 50s style house spaceship with his wife baking him apple pie in it.
All right. So anyway,
my alien wife with the 3 boobs, she'll cook for me and clean my house every day.
I feel horrible for that waifu.
Stopped it.
Yeah, those white men stopped me from screwing Princess Leia.
Okay. To sort of find of where that he starts with the Dune commentary, I think 6:15 might be around where it is at. So
sorry, I'm just laughing.
No. It's totally fine. You guys are having a good time, and I love it. But nonetheless, let's see if this is when he starts talking about Dune.
Dull. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because they end up working together anyway.
Oh, yeah. He's just getting done with his Foundation commentary. Yeah. It was talking about how that these different characters, they get along fairly well in spite of them being like different races and yada, yada. And I guess my thing is I don't find the idea of diversity itself to be woke, which is what Quinn almost seems to be saying throughout that entire spiel about explaining Foundation. I mean,
right?
No, not at all. Star Trek was very diverse back in the '60s, and kids they act like anti-racism is something new. I mean, every kid's movie when I was a little kid and was always preaching us against racism back then,
Right.
Well, this modern interpretation of anti-racism is new, and all it is just anti-white. That's all it is.
Which is true, yeah. But back then, as a kid, you had Fraggle Rock would talk about how the Dozers and the Fraggles need to get along, and of course, we all remember 3 horns never play with long necks.
Oh, right, Land Before Time.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Didn't Star Trek have the first interracial kiss on TV?
Star Trek had the first interracial kiss on TV. Yes.
Yes.
Well, this is a point I've been wanting to make for a while. People keep bringing this up. They're like, "Oh, in the 1960s they did a kiss. In the 1970s, G.I. Joe or whoever did an interracial kiss. They were so progressive for their time." And it's like, no, they weren't. Let's be honest about something. no Hollywood executive tries anything at any point or time that is actually risky. Meaning that for them to feel safe putting that interracial kiss in Star Trek, they had to feel that at least the majority of society was fine with it. And guess what it was?
Devil's advocate, how does progressiveness or progression or whatever interplay with riskiness?
It doesn't. Progressives don't take risks. They're fucking pussies.
Okay. Anyway, I just reject the idea that diversity is inherently wokeness, as Quinn goes saying. It's if you go like sacrificing character development in the name of diversity when it becomes a problem and becomes wokeness or whatever.
Right, or you do things like make your black people orcs.
Or you think
that's very woke.
Or you think diversity in of itself is a character developing trait, which it's not.
No.
You can have a white, you know, a completely white cast that has a whole lot more character development than a fully diverse cast, for example.
And vice versa. And like, these people act like it's something that matters, and it doesn't.
Anyway.
So Isaac Asimov was thinking about diversity in his universe enough to point out the fact that Harry Seldon grew as a person after encountering more diversity.
Asimov was a hippie anyway. All that crap about solutions through nonviolence, that doesn't matter anyway. Why has Leia Kynes, a white male, been cast as a black female in Dune? Obviously SJW garbage.
Well, first off, Leia Kynes is half Fremen, so not exactly white.
Now, let me ask for you guys' opinions, because obviously the biggest reason why I wanted to have you, both of you on here is because you're both anti-SJWs and you're huge Dune buffs for, like, how long have you guys both been fans of the Dune universe?
Since I was 15.
A few years. But in terms of the Leia Kynes, I will say, since this is a readaptation of the book, not a remake of the 80s movie, I don't really view it as a racial recasting, because if you actually read the description in the book, it's vague enough that an actor of any race really could play the character and kind of be faithful to Frank Herbert's interpretation.
Right. Any character except a white guy, really.
Well, but it was very clear that Kynes was a man in the book. And I definitely was not a fan of the gender of gender bending a character for no reason, because if Frank Herbert wanted Kynes to be a woman, he would have wrote that.
Well, I agree with you absolutely, and let me point this out too. The Fremen people they're basically, if you study the Butlerian Jihad especially, but if you go through the Fremen like lore and the words they use, their language. What they are is a combination of Buddhist and Islam together. They come from what is called, Islamic Buddhism or something. I can't remember. And their god, like 10,000 years ago, was known as Buddha.
I believe Frank Herbert was a Buddhist, wasn't he?
I don't know what he was. I just know that he wasn't a hard-line Christian.
No.
That's all I know.
No, definitely. He seems kind of critical of religious fanatics in his books.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, very. That's why he made the Fremen Muslims.
Here's my thing, and my point, though. It does make more sense to make the Fremen darker melanin, darker skinned, as opposed to how that David Lynch portrayed them, because, you have a civilization that has been living for generations on a desert planet, hundreds, even thousands of years, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it says so in the book. Like, I believe the way it describes Chani, Paul describes her as being darker skinned with elven features. Is how Frank Herbert described her.
But something like that. I don't remember the exact description really, but it was something like that. And but specifically, I think the elven features even was a hint to the Asiatic half that the Fremen basically are. But
so like Zendaya, the actress who they cast to her,
almost a perfect casting.
But like, she seems to look exactly like Frank Herbert described her. Like,
no, physically a perfect casting, really.
Yeah, physically a perfect casting. Yeah.
Right. So the point that I was trying to get to right here is that you both are anti-SJWs, anti-wokesters, whatever we want to call you, and big-time Dune buffs. And both
I
of
believe
you
the
two-
proper
Whoa,
word
whoa,
is
whoa, whoa,
racist.
whoa.
Oh,
Right. According to SJWs, that's what you are.
dude, man.
No, you're not
Get me in trouble,
racist.
man.
Anyway, so the point being, but taking that all into mind, you both have a little bit of a snagging issue with the fact that they portrayed the Fremen as white in the David Lynch novel the same way that Quinn is here, right?
Oh, it was horrible casting.
To be honest, when you consider the huge problems in Lynch's movie, it's not something I really thought of much. Lynch's movie was a highly flawed work. I don't hate it. It had some good things well for its time, but it's not a very faithful adaptation.
I mean, that was the least of David Lynch's problem with his adaptation, but it still is a little bit of inaccuracy if we were to like take in the science and the science of the universe and the biology of humanity into account as far as how people evolve to their environments, you know?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how good, for example, that contact lens technology was back then, but if the contact lens technology back then was horrible and you were liable to go blind from it or something, that might be the only reason to cast white people, so you get the blue eyes, which are very important.
That'd be the only reason. But the thing is,
but they didn't
do contact lens. They did these blue blobs over their
they didn't do contact
special
lenses.
effects.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, they didn't do it. So that's kind of irrelevant, you know.
Oh god. I'm getting
that is like
flashbacks to the Lynch movie right now, actually.
Some of the cheesiest special effects I ever seen. You know what's even worse is the personal shield special effects.
Oh, that was terrible. They did a terrible job on that, even for the time.
Even for the time.
I thought by the standards of the 1980s effects, though, they did a good job on the sandworm.
Right.
That was decent.
The personal shields. Hey, Tron is calling. They want their special effects back.
Yeah, but like the whole shot of when when Paul first rides the sandworm, I thought actually was really well done by 1980s standards.
Right.
I kind of like how it feels like he's on a real thing. Like the worm actually feels like a physical object that he's on, which actually I thought made it work better than the miniseries, where it really looked like they're just acting against a blue screen. It didn't seem like the worms were really there.
So
it looks like they're pretending to be on a thing.
So
Paul looks like he's physically on something. Yeah.
So David Lynch's worm writing was about as believable as Luke Skywalker being grabbed by the Rancor.
I thought it was better than Luke Skywalker being grabbed by the Rancor.
No. Sci-Fi Channel's worm writing was that believable.
Yeah.
I don't know. From what I vaguely saw, I mean, the only thing that I saw was you guys sharing a GIF in the SFN Twitter group chat. But I think that the special effects for the worms in the 2000s miniseries is worse than the Rancor grabbing Luke Skywalker, personally.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with that.
Probably. Yeah. The effects wise in the 2000 miniseries are actually worse than in Lynch's movie, even though it came out 16 years later, because the Sci-Fi Channel had a shoestring budget. They made the entire 5-hour miniseries only $20 million. Adjusted
really
a little over 30. That's just not enough to tell a story as big as Dune, you know. And it looks really cheap in some spots. Even though I overall still like that miniseries. I thought it's pretty faithful to the book, but it's a corny looking thing from an effects standpoint.
Also I gotta. Go ahead.
David McAvoy or James McAvoy? What's his name?
He was in like the second one, Children of Dune miniseries, and he did a great job there.
He played.
Wait a second, they did a Children of Dune miniseries.
They incorporated.
It came out 2003. It was awesome. Well, I mean, it had some problems too, but James McAvoy was awesome in that part.
Right, that was like very early. In his career,
did that.
Wasn't it? That was like very early in his career, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's Sci-Fi Channel. I hope it was early in his career.
But, though it is a big deviation from the book, because Leto II would have been 9 years old if it were faithful, but an understandable change, because doing all that with child actors would have been probably impossible. It's one thing to write that in a book. It's another thing to actually put that on screen.
Whoa. Question. Leto II was 9 years old during Children of Dune.
Correct. That's why it's called Children of Doom, because they're
Holy
literally
fuck!
children.
I thought he was like a late teen at best, not a
No.
prepubescent.
No, they were both children, man. Like literally children.
But remember, they're
Damn.
born with their parents' memories, so they're pretty much adults in children's bodies, essentially.
Yeah.
I guess so.
That's why Paul's sister was terrified everybody in the Fremen village.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think we're going to continue on.
And also, it didn't really matter to anyone in David Lynch's Dune when they cast him as an extremely pale Caucasian.
I think to explain some of the reasoning for that might be because that Dune was a little bit of a niche sci-fi, and so nobody really cared and was able to compare and contrast David Lynch's movie with the Dune, source material. You saying, Trucker? No, go on, Trucker.
It's the gender bending that I take issue with, not the racial.
Right.
Like an actor of any race could have played Kynes.
Well, the point that the
Kynes
point that Quinn
is only half Fremen, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well,
he was only half Fremen. Like his father, I think, was like a servant of the emperor, and so was he. And they basically took a Fremen bride.
So in that case,
Tommy's father too.
So in that case, Liet Kynes in the upcoming Dune movie should be more brown than African black.
I don't know.
Yeah, he should be. He should look like a white Arab.
Probably an Arab actor probably would have been best, but he could have been played by a black guy, and it really would have been fine. But he's meant to be Chani's. He's meant to be Chani's father, though, and I wonder. I guess is he in the movie now? Is he Chani's? Is she Chani's mother? I guess.
I'm willing to bet they never address it.
Well, they didn't address it in Lynch's movie. In Lynch's movie, they never mentioned Kynes being Chani's father is just never mentioned.
Right, but the thing that I was trying to mention to clarify, Loudmouth, the point I think Quinn is trying to make here is that, you guys are critical of the race, air quotes, race bending in the 2021 Dune movie, but you were not critical of the race, or nobody was critical of the race bending in the 1984 Dune movie. So hypocrites much? And I'm thinking about
real quick. Actually, I was going to.
No way people could complain.
I was actually going to say something. My dad went and watched that movie.
Right.
And when he went to the showing of the movie, they would actually give you sheets that explained words, because they just kind of, instead of doing it in an intelligent way, they just gave you paper that said these words mean these things.
And he felt insulted and was all like, "Throw this trash away."
Well, he did actually. He literally crumpled it up and threw it on the floor.
Well,
he was all like, "I know Brian Herbert's work, you pleb. Step aside."
Frank Herbert.
Well, to be honest, though, that just shows the massive mistake it was to ever try to adapt all of Dune into one movie. It's impossible.
No, but the other thing was that when my dad went there to the theater, he took problem with everybody being white dudes. And on top of that, there was literally 2 other people in the theater, he said, and that was it.
Wow, that much of a...
It was not a popular movie at all.
It flopped at the box office. It made less than its $42 million budget.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys actually heard about the international box office of Dune 2021 so far? It made over 30 million within the first 24 hours of its release internationally.
Really?
It's approaching 100 million already, and it hasn't even come out in America or China yet.
Damn.
Oh, I got so excited. I thought it released already. I was like, really?
No. The full release is supposed to be October 22nd, at least here in America. I actually heard from a friend of mine on Facebook who has a friend in Ukraine who actually saw it there. And according to this guy, apparently it's pretty damn good.
All right. I'm excited.
Very positive reviews of it.
What?
The reviews have been very positive.
Aside from those who are like white savior complex.
I mean, which is
so white
because these morons don't seem to understand that he was criticizing the whole savior story arc. Frank Herbert was against it. The entire point of Dune is that the messianic saviors are bad.
Right.
No, they literally kill more people than anyone ever in history.
Basically, Frank Herbert is literally saying, "Hey, Trump cultists, stop worshiping Trump like if he's the second coming of Jesus Christ."
Yep, cults of personality are bad. That if you could sum up the theme of Dune in a single sentence, that would be it.
Right. No, the first book alone, Paul accidentally gets thousands and thousands, if not millions, murdered.
Really?
Just on accident.
And all his actions are self-serving. If you really look at, I mean, obviously you could view him as the good guy compared to how cartoonishly evil the Harkonnens are. Obviously, he's the better of the two, but all his actions are ultimately self-serving.
Well, that's like comparing a turd. Paul's a horrible person. He's not a good person at all.
Paul is self-serving. I thought he was like he was reluctant at first to take leadership position, wasn't he?
Slightly.
He was.
He kind of sees ahead that his actions will lead to a great jihad, but he does them all anyway.
So wait, when he starts to accept that leadership position, was he like a I don't know, an anti-hero all the way through at that point?
I'd say kind of, yeah.
Okay.
He knew his actions would end in mass genocide of entire planets.
But he didn't care?
Once he accepted it, he no longer cared. He said, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do.
This is my destiny, you know? And it kind of, that's the way it betrays prescience, like that we're all just kind of slaves of our destiny, kind of.
We will definitely have to see how this unfolds, portrayed in the Dune movie come October 22nd.
I'm sure Denis Villeneuve will do a good job.
Right. So anyway.
You did say he's a nerd like us, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He said he read Dune when he was a teenager, and he's wanted to do a Dune movie since.
All right.
So I'm going to continue on here.
David Lynch's Dune will always be more true to the book than Denis Villeneuve's movie.
Okay.
I got a who the fuck actually says that? What do you guys think?
That is a massive straw man. I don't know anyone who said that.
Nobody has ever said that, ever.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, Lynch's Dune is the one that has, like, the anecdote that they feed Tufir Haddad being milked out of a fucking cat. What? That is one of the weirdest things ever. Obviously, because there's a plot in the book where, like, the Harkonnens, like, put poison in him, but, like, feed him the antidote in his soup every day after they have him prisoner. But Lynch adds a real fucked up weird thing, because by getting the antidote by milking this cat in this machine, I'm like, what? Frank Herbert didn't write that, that's for sure.
So milking the cat.
What the fuck?
I forgot about that. Oh my god.
So basically,
what did Lynch put that in there for? What the fuck is wrong with him?
I think he just wanted to jerk off to a cat.
Bestiality much.
David Lynch is confirmed the first.
I don't think
first ever zoophile.
Dogs, but there's a bunch of pugs in the movie. Maybe just David Lynch really liked pugs.
Who knows?
No. David Lynch was the first ever furry, and that was his way of expressing it.
All right. So to make a long response short, hey, Quinn, know your opposition better so you don't end up doing a blatant fucking straw man.
Yeah, that's a straw man.
Yeah. Like, this is quite actually disturbing. I actually see this a lot on Facebook whenever I go arguing with my friends on there. They'll like trot out this straw man of their opposition because apparently they don't dive into politics enough to actually know what their opposition thinks.
He's not really a political channel, so
right.
Him having a surface level like understanding of politics is okay with me for that.
It's
reason.
more forgivable than it would be for anybody whose regular job is politics on YouTube.
Like if it was Cenk Uygur.
Remember like a year and a half ago or so when we were attacking No Bullshit, he's like, I don't really think much about politics. And I paused and I'm like, dumbass, you do a whole YouTube channel and you talk about nothing about politics, you moron.
Oh, you're talking about when we were responding to No Bullshit being interviewed by Sitch and Adam?
Yeah. We paused and remember So you don't know much about politics, even though you run a channel where you talk about nothing about politics. And that's your career, not even like a hobby he does every now and then. But his entire career is on that, and he doesn't know basic political concepts. But whereas with Quinn here, since he doesn't run a political channel, it is way more forgivable.
Understandable. So in that case, I will say that it is not so much malicious, but more incompetence. The fact that he like concocts this straw man of his opposition, but it still does not. It's still like I don't know. Doesn't make it any less bad in my opinion.
It's one of those things where it's like it's understandable, and maybe even forgivable, but like you still screwed up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Okay. Villeneuve. And no, David Lynch's Dune is actually highly inaccurate. I did a whole video on the problems with that movie.
Agreed.
In the Dune novels, the Fremen are descendants from the Zensunni Wanderers, a people who traveled for centuries throughout the galaxy facing new oppression on each world. They were slaves, persecuted and chased from planet to planet, picking up new genes, mixing, diversifying along the way before finally ending up on Arrakis. It's part of the reason they are so resilient, as well as the fact that they were shaped by the harsh deserts of Arrakis.
Real quick, let me
go ahead. I wanted to
let me add
pause
to
it
that
just to avoid fair use violation, but go on, Trucker.
Let me add to that. The it's not necessarily that they're so diverse. It's that one, they have the genetics to deal with any problem that comes forward, just like how any genetically like a genetically small pool of animals will go extinct before anything else will. You know, but on top of that, also because they're led by literally a rogue Bene Gesserit, they also have more collective memory than anyone else. So they're able to tap into more intelligence, more information than anyone else.
Right, and Quinn does mention that a little bit later, as how that helped out Leto II because he's half Fremen.
Right.
So no one in the live chat says Thorius Unlimited is a pretty good critic and movie reviewer. All right, I'll have to remember to check him out. I guess no one. Thanks for the comment. And Metal Minister says at least it wasn't Sharknado cheap, referring to.
Absolutely. Like the Sci-Fi Channel actually produced really good content, and I still really like the 2000 miniseries despite some of its problems in terms of that. Then around like 2004, the channel went to complete shit and they just started producing trash.
Well, like they started making like Lake Placid, and there was a few others that were actually really like Lake Placid was surprisingly good, but it did not need 5 sequels.
That was actually what is it? That was originally theatrical. That was not made by the Sci-Fi Channel. The first one, I think the sequels were like produced by like cheap company. Well, what happened was I think NBC bought out the channel, and they started realizing that cheap reality shows and these garbage asylum ripoffs, even if they didn't get as much praise and as much ratings, since they were so much cheaper to make, that they were just like an easier way to make money. And
so what you're saying is that the Sci-Fi Channel is the Blumhouse of sci-fi.
Pretty much, but in the late 90s and early 2000s, they actually did produce some good stuff. And Frank Herbert's Dune, the miniseries, and its sequel, Children of Dune, is one of their best projects.
Like they actually cared about their content.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's reasonably, it's pretty faithful to the book. It has some problems. The effects look pretty cheap in some spots, but it's a pretty decent, faithful telling of Frank Herbert's novel.
Right.
Especially compared to David Lynch.
Yeah, it's a lot more faithful to the book than David Lynch's movie was.
At least they don't have any rain at the end of the first book.
Oh yeah, that was the biggest thing that Lynch fucked up on. Like, if the movie had been a hit, and they wanted to adapt Dune Messiah, how would they even do it? They couldn't adapt Dune Messiah because of that ending.
They couldn't do Children of Dune, Dune Messiah, or any of them. Like,
yeah, it would have ruined them. That stupid.
The worms would have gone extinct, and you never would have had a 3,000-year reign that ended with the worms returning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that would have killed all the worms, so it would have ended the spice production right away.
Yeah, a lot sooner than Leto II's reign.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason he became the Worm Emperor was so that, well, actually, never mind. I'll get into that later. This gets into it.
Well, just keep going. Keep going.
Language and words used in Fremen culture imply that they are a result of a smattering together of many different cultures. For instance, the word Zensunni itself, Zen suggests the influence of Buddhism, and Sunni refers to a branch of Islam.
But
The Fremen have words like Mahdi, Muad'Dib, Sayadina. All of these imply the influence of non-white cultures. And also the fact that the Fremen have lived in the deep deserts of Arrakis for many generations suggests that at the very least their skin should have darkened somewhat. So for David Lynch's Dune to portray every single Fremen character as pale white completely betrays the source material.
And I just want to pause it right there for the sake of fair
Yeah,
use.
he's right. He's 100% right here.
But I also wanted to add for myself, though, when I first got introduced to all these terms in relation to Dune, I did not really have any problem with it. And I am on the right. I am an anti-SJW and all that stuff. And I don't see it as woke in of itself to be adapting terms from different cultures into your franchise.
Well, no, that's what you would expect out of any culture that's 10 to 30,000 years old.
I almost feel like that there's an example that I could bring up here, like Narnia, or I don't know. I would have to think about it more, but I cannot remember right now.
And it goes even further. Why is Dr. Yui a white guy? Does the surname Yui mean nothing? And Duke Leto himself is described as having olive skin. Sorry, but Jürgen Prochnow very German skin does not pass for olive in any light.
I just got to say that Oscar Isaac as Leto Atreides the First is pretty good casting. What do you guys think?
Perfect fucking casting.
I go ahead.
Oscar Isaac is a fantastic actor. I love him in everything he's in. And and also from a political standpoint, he once was photographed in public wearing a shirt that said, "Who is John Galt?"
Oh my God, really?
Really?
Who? John Galt?
John Galt.
Remind me, who is that?
He doesn't exist.
It's a character in Atlas Shrugged.
Well, even in Atlas Shrugged. Wait, does he exist in Atlas Shrugged? I got halfway through that book.
He does
before.
exist in Atlas Shrugged. He's the inventor of this wheel that can generate energy from air particles.
Okay.
Yeah.
You cannot blame me as much for not knowing that as much as blame me for not knowing what exactly a cervix is.
No, don't ever mention that again. In fact, delete the stream.
Right? Like every time we hear about you getting a girlfriend, we're gonna send her this with a timestamp.
Well, dude, the stream for your own sake.
Hey, if somebody wants to say that I'm a dumbass, I was ignorant for not knowing that. I mean, that's fair. I'm sorry for my ignorance on that front. I will.
Don't worry, we're mostly just trolling you.
We're
mostly.
I'm definitely not deleting this stream.
We're just joking around.
Okay. Sorry, but excuse my. To pull an Alex Jones quote, I'm kind of retarded. I'm too retarded to understand sarcasm. But anyway.
So if you really want to get pedantic about skin color, what we've seen from Denis Villeneuve's Dune is far more representative of what is in the novel.
Except for the gender bend that you show right here. Here is a photo of who is playing Liet Kynes here.
Who was a man in the book.
But also more important than that, should I get into that right now about why it's actually more breaking to the story than most people
He
would
does
think?
mention a little bit more of that a little bit later. We'll save it for when that he actually hand waves away Liet Kynes. So he isn't quite hand waved it just yet.
All right.
Okay, maybe Lynch changed some things, but that doesn't mean Dune was pushing some kind of ridiculous diversity argument. That's ridiculous.
Actually, it's not. That was one of the main points of Leto II's Golden Path. You are familiar with the machinations of the God Emperor, the famine times, and the scattering of humanity that occurred after his reign ended, right?
Yeah, I've read the book. I know who Duke Leto is.
No, not Duke Leto. Leto II, twin to Ganima, whose name meant spoil of war.
He acts like that all the anti-SJWs who are being critical of Dune 2021 are completely ignorant of the second and third and fourth books. I'm not going to say that's a complete straw man. I will admit that there might be some of those low-hanging fruit people who have only read the first book and watched the David Lynch movie and being critical of Dune 2021 based off of only that. But it's still like the small minority of lowest of low-hanging fruit, and I just got to say that's not really representative of all anti-SJWs and whatnot. So,
no, well, let alone anybody that knows anything about Dune, that has read the books.
So anyway,
And I don't think you need to have read the books to criticize a change. I mean, just knowing a character who was a man in the book is now played by a woman in the movie. You don't need to have read the books to say, that's wrong.
I will say that it isn't like a deal breaker for me
No, not
personally,
at all. Not
as
even
far
close.
as, but it does make one kind of worried in the same way as Captain Marvel. Like, if I don't know, I'll save that commentary for a bit later.
No, not even close. As a matter of fact, I still am highly looking forward to this movie. I think it will be really good. And
in spite of the kinds, right?
Does that change annoy me? Yes. Do I think it automatically ruins the movie? Absolutely not.
No, I don't think it ruins the movie at all. It does create deep lore issues, but I don't think any.
Yeah, and it's just pointless. The main thing about it, it's a change they did not need to make.
They're just virtue signal. Denis Villeneuve is just trying to virtue signal to all the far left SJWs.
I don't think it's Denis Villeneuve. It probably was something the studio probably gave him. They said, you need more women in this.
Right.
Exactly. And he's like, okay, let's put a. And I think he actively decided to go with the most extreme, quote unquote, diversity option because he knew that would placate them.
Probably. That's my guess in the situation too.
Right. I mean, everyone else is pretty stellar casting, like Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, Oscar Isaac as Leto Atreides I, and Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides. Like, he looks a whole lot more accurate than the guy who was casted for the David Lynch movie as Paul Atreides. Like, he's a lot smaller and feeble and all that stuff.
Kind of.
Was you want to say?
I don't think the casting of Paul matters that much, as long as he is visibly different than the locals, for example.
Yeah,
and
he kind of does fit because Timothy Chalamet, he's a bit short and he's not very muscular, which is actually a good thing because that's how he's described in the book. He's described as a bit small for his age.
Yeah, he's not described as a hyper masculine man.
Right, exactly.
At all.
Exactly. Whereas
no, people like Duncan Idaho are the man's man.
All three Dune movies, all three adaptations have cast someone in their 20s to play Paul, even though Paul in the book was only 15.
I was going to say he was in his early teens.
Chalamet is like 19 or something like that, but yet he fits.
No, he's 20. He's like 23.
He's 23, but
physically he fits the bill.
Kind of like Tom Holland, right?
That again is kind of a nitpick. It's not a huge issue, but it's there.
Well, it's kind of like what they did with Tom Holland as Spider-Man, though, right?
Spider-Man was supposed to be a teenager. Well,
no. Spider-Man. Of course, Spider-Man was supposed to be a teenager, but Tom Holland, he's 19 and he's only getting older, and yet he still has a young babyish face.
No, he was like 23 when they cast him, and now he's like it's like 5 years later, so he's like 28.
No, I think he's 19. He was 19 when he first got casted
in
Civil War.
I think he was a little older than that, but whatever.
I one thing that keeps annoying me about the Spider-Man movies, real quick, they always started off with a child. And it's like, that was for like the first 10 comic books.
All right.
Yeah, I know about them.
You haven't read Children of Dune, have you?
This strawman pisses me off.
He's just so pretentious and smug throughout all this. Quinn is.
Okay, you're right. You're a great science fiction YouTuber. Okay, cool.
But represent your opposition a little bit better, or better yet, have an actual conversation with somebody from the opposition instead of like creating this farcical straw man here.
Yeah, I've read pretty much all the books. I will admit that some of them, like The Butler and Jihad, I haven't read in 7 years, but I've read them.
Yeah, I haven't read the last two of his books either, but I'm a little unfamiliar with some of the later stuff as well. But you shouldn't have to have read all of them to understand the whole thing. It's better that you do, but you don't. But This movie's only adapting the first half of the first book.
Yeah. Well, it's only better so that way, whenever he does something like this, like, have you read the books? You can go, yes, I have.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to any detractors who might be watching this now or in the future, and is all like, it's supposed to be comical, this straw man here. Stop being so serious or taking it so literal. I don't see the comedy here with this origin specimen, whatever character that Quinn has here. So
right, and he can make the character goofy and everything without making him lie about what people who disagree with him say.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, thought so. It figures, but it's okay. You're learning now. And also, organism, it's okay to admit you don't know things sometimes. We're all human. Well, you're some kind of floating energy orb thing, but it's the same.
Well, if it's okay for people to admit that they're wrong, well, then why don't you, or don't know some things out about you, admit that you do not know your opposition entirely?
Right.
Just pointing that out, Quinn.
Yeah.
Same principle. Anyway, Leto II did what Paul could not and led mankind down the path to salvation.
Here's my thing. You say that Leto II is supposed to be 9 years old. That doesn't look exactly 9 years old right there. By the
well, the second book. Keep in mind, the second book is set thousands of years later, so he's like 3,500 years old in book four.
Yeah, and he's covered in worms. So
yeah, and he's covered in worms. So the book 4 is set 3,500 years after book 3.
Okay.
By the end of it, he's literally not even human anymore.
Well,
yeah,
I kind of presumed that this was like when he first got the sand trout on him. This concept art is supposed to portray.
I don't know.
I could be wrong. It could be like.
Let me take a quick look at it.
I mean, this concept art right here could be concept art for how Leto II was like 10 years after Children of Dune.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. You seen it yet, Trucker?
The worms are still around, so it's not too far off from after he got the worms on him. But when we're talking about this time span, that could be hundreds of years later.
Fair enough.
While Paul remained indecisive in the face of the choices laid out before him.
And that concept art right there was after he got blinded, I guess. Paul, I mean.
I go more into this in my video here on why Paul shouldn't actually be viewed as the hero of the Dune series. And Leto II even heavily implies to Paul that the reason that he was able to choose a path for humanity while Paul could not was due to the fact that he had Fremen blood. It is sad you were never really Fremen, Leto said. We Fremen know how to commission the Aretha. Our judges can choose between evils. It has always been that way for us. The point is, both Leto and Paul saw the ultimate threat which would destroy humanity.
I'm just going to pause it for a split second there for the sake of
actually,
what?
Should I get into why being a Fremen made a difference?
No, go ahead. I don't think he mentions that little thing at any much later point. I mean, he hasn't finished his full point about Fremen specialities, but just go ahead for the sake of fair use.
Oh, in that case, let it play for a second.
Okay, let's see. I got one question. Why do they have like 20th or 21st century helicopters going around Dune?
In a lot of ways, the technology of that world is stunted when it comes to on-planet travel.
Okay.
And both of them saw the way to defeat it. But Paul chose to abandon the human empire which he had sworn to lead, leaving this task to his half-Fremen son. The Bene Gesserit also understood that it was necessary to take genes from the whole of humanity in order to evolve. Their breeding program, which eventually created Paul, involved genes being gathered from countless humans over endless generations. But Paul never had the genetic memory of the Fremen. His son did. And that's how he was able to come to the realization that the Bene Gesserit way of doing things was, while close, ultimately flawed. He took charge of the breeding program, and for 3,500 years he did his work, intent on thwarting the great enemy.
Right.
Go
ahead.
Right,
so right here.
Commentary.
All right. So the reason, above all else, that it was important that Leto II was a Fremen and Paul wasn't wasn't because of, diversity. He's different, man. He's not white. The reason it was important is specifically the struggles that the Fremen people went through for tens of thousands of years of the Zunsuni people being discriminated against, enslaved, being warmongered against from planet to planet. They had experienced nothing but evil for about 10,000 years, right?
This almost sounds like some proto form of race realism, almost.
No. Well, they're basically, until they become the Muslims of their world, they're the Jews of their world. Quite literally, this is the Fremen are really deep lore, a mix of the three Abrahamic religions, especially the Islam and Judaism. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Anyway, the thing about that is, but because the Zunsoni people, because the Fremen had been traveling across the entirety of the known civilization, that they had the genetic memory of literally every single human culture in history, right? And on top of that, they had the genetic memory of 10,000 years of discrimination. And until Leto II, they were always led by a great mother who was literally a rogue Bene Gesserit.
Reverend Mother?
Reverend Mother,
yeah. Reverend Mother. They were always led by a Reverend Mother who was literally a rogue Bene Gesserit, right?
Right.
And the Bene Gesserit can have access to collective genetic memory. But obviously that only goes as far back as your actual genetics. That's why when Leto had access to it, he had infinitely more information than Paul did, even though Paul had infinitely more information than the Bene Gesserit did. Because Paul was the ultimate accumulation, as far as the Bene Gesserit could tell, of genetic memory. He wasn't. Leto II was.
Right.
And that's why the quote-unquote diversity mattered. It wasn't because, oh, he's less brown, he's more brown, he's more Asian than you are, he was as close to a collective unconsciousness as one human could be.
Right. The reason why I was, bringing up race realism is because within race realism, they go talking about as to how that supposedly genetics between the different races, they matter, and we should determine the differences between all the genetic differences between all these races. And essentially that's what Frank Herbert was doing by, making him like half Fremen, Leto II. His genetics did matter. So therefore, wouldn't that technically mean that Frank Herbert was being kind of the sort of white anti-woke with that? Incorporating that into his franchise?
Real quick, I got to formulate my thoughts. You got any ideas on that, Loudmouth?
I'm blank.
Well, let me try to word it. He's not being a quote-unquote, for lack of a better word, race realist. What he's being is a...
Well, no, I'm not trying to say that he advocates for that, but he's incorporating that into his entirely fictional universe.
Well, if the leftists were to realize this, they would say that he was a race realist. That is true. I'll say that much.
But people who are superior are not the white people; it's the brown people, the Fremen in this case.
Nobody is superior in this case because plenty of Fremen die, plenty of Fremen are murdered, and it took them having a savior to not be shitty desert wandering tribes people. But
I mean, who's to say living in the desert, drinking your own piss, and riding giant worms isn't a satisfying life?
Right. Oh shit, it might be, honestly.
Yeah.
You're riding giant worms. That sounds fucking dope.
Yeah, and drinking your own piss.
Well, every life has its trade-offs, my friend. But it's the fact that they have more. So the concept of a collective unconscious, right? The collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I guess. But continue.
It's basically the concept of the whole of human memory exist as its own separate thing. And in Paul, that's almost true. In Leto II, that is true. That's the difference.
Because Leto II, he doesn't just have like half the universe as humans, or even like most of them. He has all of the human civilization's memories in him.
Essentially.
Right. Makes sense. And he's able to like take those memories and apply that in the modern day situation. Is his case,
right? And the thing about that is, there's more to it than that too, in that he's capable of using that collective memory to better predict the future. And because when they see the future in the Dune series, they're not literally seeing the future. They're creating calculations based on the collective memory that they have inside themselves.
Oh, psychohistorianism, kind of like Harry Seldon in the Foundation novels. It comes back full circle.
I guess. I don't know. But then they're able to take that information and use it to calculate what will happen next, or what needs to happen next. And that's why Leto's able to do it. Leto II is able to do it, and Paul's not, because he has more information. So it's like a math equation in which Paul only has half. Let's say it's like a math equation where there's a bunch of letters. Paul only knows half of what those letters actually, the numbers that they translate to are. Leto II knows what all of them translate to as numbers.
And he's able to predict the end of times, basically. The enemy that's coming that brings about the end of times.
Basically.
Kralazek, I think is what it's called.
I don't remember. I only read that book once.
All right. Anyway, I think we're ready to continue.
Salute. He knew that humankind had to scatter and diversify beyond anything ever seen before.
I just want to point out very quickly that we're talking about the age of Leto II. This looks like closer to prepubescent years in the face and stature and all that stuff.
That's when he sits on the throne. That's like right after he put the worms on him.
Right.
He understood that stagnation was akin to death, and that includes stagnation of the natural human evolutionary process. So to push mankind to do what was necessary, he took everything from them, and upon his death, they scattered, fleeing deep into the furthest reaches of space, well beyond the bounds of the old empire, diversifying to an extent where one threat would never be able to find and seek out and destroy all of humankind.
Sounds epic, bro. Anyway, fair use.
Right?
If Leto II had not been Fremen, if he had been, say, the son of Princess Irulan, would he have been able to commission the Arifa in that ancient Fremen way, choosing between evils? Or would he have made the same mistake as Paul, dooming humanity to a terrible end? It seems as though Herbert is implying that the Fremen memories, the ancient wisdom of the Zensuni wanderers which Leto possessed but Paul did not, was essential to why Leto II succeeded while his father failed.
You guys have anything to say or no?
Well, he basically just quoted me.
Really cool. Why I like Quinn's channel. No, this is all cool shit.
Right.
Yeah, but he basically just quoted me verbatim and proved my point about it.
Damn right. He looked into the future and he saw your words, trucker, and he quoted you verbatim before they were even spoken. I'm telling you, this guy is taking a lot of spice.
Oh God, he's on the first steps to becoming a navigator.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Quinn is going to be the next god emperor of the known universe. I'm telling you.
He is the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yeah.
Or, oh man, Kwisatz Haderach, Muad'Dib. There was another term. There was one particular term that basically is a supercomputer type of person. I cannot remember what that term was. Mentat, yes. He's becoming a Mentat.
Yeah. He's a Mentat. He's a living computer, man.
Yep.
Well, I do think we need to lead a Butlerian jihad against the tech industry. So
find the spice first, Loudmouth, and then I'll approve.
All right.
But anyway, I was just mostly pausing to the avoidance of fair use violations.
So with all that being said, it seems like Asimov's and Herbert's books are both pretty woke.
Ha! I told you those. Wait,
I would disagree on them being woke. I mean,
it's not a matter of wokeness. It's a different paradigm.
Yeah. I mean, he's using the positive definition of woke in this case. He's trying to use that one instead of the negative one that we applied to things to, criticize them. Anyway.
Right.
Don't know what I was gonna say.
I work it out. You're almost there.
So what you're saying is science fiction isn't becoming woke because of some SJW agenda?
It's always been woke.
I completely disagree with that. I mean, if that's the case, well, then was Starship Troopers woke? I mean, as far as I know, Starship Troopers, that is like older than Foundation and Dune even, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know.
I could be completely off base. Like,
Also,
everybody goes criticizing Starship Troopers for basically being fascistic, but here's the thing about Starship Troopers. Starship Troopers had its racial diversity. So was it woke in spite of all the air quotes fascism, or was it not really woke at all? I mean, my
guess.
Go on.
My guess is if he's read the Starship Troopers books, which admittedly I haven't, but I've read breakdowns of them and whatnot. He would say that the Starship Troopers is woke, the book, but the movie is fascistic, even though they're essentially the same thing, except now they're dressed like Nazis.
Right. And I think True Grave would be somebody that would take issue with that critique. He'd probably be a whole lot more uncharitable and say that it's more inaccurate than what you're giving it credit for, Trucker. But
admittedly, I haven't read Starship Troopers.
I have listened to the entire audiobook, and it is rather disloyal to the original source material, the Verhoeven movie.
All right.
But yeah, anyways.
Science fiction writers have always been writing about these types of ideas. Gene Roddenberry had a black woman on the bridge of the Enterprise all the way back in 1966, and an Asian man, and a Russian. This was at the height of the Cold War, in the middle of the Civil Rights Movement.
Yeah, civil rights. It was called civil rights, not wokeism. And he was propping all this out so as to say that, being black is okay, and being all these other ethnicities is okay. Not saying that all these ethnicities is their character, or even sacrificing character development for the sake of diversity.
Yeah, well, they literally ignored their race. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know much about Star Trek, so nah.
Yeah. They ignored their race. So he was playing both the diversity in as well as heavily focusing on the character development at its core by itself. So it ain't really woke, much less in the pejorative sense.
So, real quick, after this, he basically just goes into a rant about how everything's woke.
Kind of. You'll just have to listen to the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
This was the most diverse cast to ever appear on television up until this point, and it was 100% intentional. Do you honestly think that doesn't count as woke? I mean, are you kidding me?
Does not really count as
woke. Does the fact that I, a registered Republican, known libertarian, have only kissed non-white girls count as woke?
Reckless Chucker, you're totally woke at that point, apparently.
Oh, I gotta kill myself. Where's my pistol?
Hey, loudmouth. The fact that you are part olive skin, you're woke.
I guess so. But no, I fully support Captain Kirk tapping that ass wherever he goes in the galaxy.
That green ass that has some kind of weird space.
Tap that green ass, Captain Kirk. Yes, Captain Kirk gets to live out movie Blob's dreams.
Movie Blob.
Oh, are you saying that movie Blob was one to be a womanizer just like Captain Kirk? That doesn't sound very woke of you, movie Bob.
Oh, he's a feminist. He's a horrible womanizer.
Yeah, I doubt. No, I highly doubt it for obvious reasons.
Right. He's not gonna get that ass. He wants that ass, but he's not gonna get it.
No, I should reword that. He's a you know he's a misogynist, and he would be a womanizer if he could.
No, but well, I mean, Jabba the Hutt had a lot of like dancing girls around him. He's like,
yeah, he also had $1 billion.
Yes,
Or $1 billion.
All we need to do is get him more views on his YouTube channel, and he'll get his starship.
Right? Just look, movie blob. I got a plan for you. Gain even more weight somehow, and get rich. And guess what? You can be Jabba the Hutt.
Would that really require him gaining any more weight?
I don't know if it's physically possible, but it would.
Maybe.
All right.
It goes even further. The first interracial kiss ever broadcast in America took place on Star Trek. Woke.
Okay, I get it.
No, I don't think you do. And plus, I'm having fun now. In the classic Season 3, Episode 15 episode of Star Trek, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, which aired January 11th, 1969, the Enterprise encounters a fleeing alien named Lokai, with a face that's black on one side and white on the other. He's being chased by an alien named Bell, who looks exactly the same, except they've got black and white on opposite sides.
Everyone with an IQ higher than 50 were able to easily get what that episode was saying. So it's not really that deep. Yes, that episode was clearly about racism.
Right.
Hell, they had Abraham Lincoln say the word Negro on air.
Right. I just thought of another argument here. Here's a difference between how this is not woke and how a whole lot of modern media is woke. I mean, here in this episode that you're portraying right here, that you're describing right here, Quinn, they're saying essentially race does not matter. Whereas in, according to modern SJW, like ideology or whatever, especially CRT, they're saying that race does matter. So,
modern SJW CRT types, the white ones are like one bad day away from becoming fucking Nazis.
I think I do recall that being an actual quote.
Well,
it would require that Coca-Cola or Verizon Wireless make a bunch of dumb ads telling them to be.
Right.
But no, real quick. So this part really annoys me. This part really pisses me off. Right?
Of Quinn's video.
With the different swapped color face people.
Mm-hmm.
Reason it pisses me off is because the point of this episode is obviously, racism bad.
Yeah.
Right? So are you saying so are you, Quinn, saying that the people who disagree with you about wokeness are saying racism good? Like, because that's what it sounds like when you bring this up as your great example of quote unquote wokeness. Quite frankly, I don't know any serious political commentator or serious political actor in America that's running around saying racism good.
I think he does think that partially on the inside, as he kind of implies it a little bit later in this video, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, anyway.
It is explained in the episode that the entire conflict between these two groups of people who share a world is due to the fact that they have slightly different skin. And of course, Kirk and Spock are totally confused. They don't get racism because they're not even the same species. In the end,
I gotta say, that's the most horrible outfit of all time. He looks like he's in pajamas for one thing.
But that was what Roddenberry meant with Star Trek. Was meant to be like a future where mankind had like put race and ethnic divisions behind us, and all like, and the world's united. That was meant to be the optimistic vision of the future that Gene Roddenberry wanted to create.
Which is part of why this modern Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Fleet, whatever stuff, is a goddamn sin against Roddenberry.
Star Trek Discovery, I think.
I have not watched a single episode of either of the new shows because I've heard nothing but bad things about them from people I trust.
Dude,
I watched the entirety of the first episode, and it was just so mean-spirited. I could not, and the character development was shallow to none. I was
how can Star Trek be mean spirited? That's the thing. It's like it literally. You can't make Star Trek mean spirited without betraying Star Trek.
Right. The character interactions were pretty mean-spirited, and obviously we've seen in past episodes that people be jerks to each other on occasion, but still, at the end of it, there were all these buddy-buddy type of relationships. Like even Miles O'Brien and James Bashir and DS9, they're both jerks to each other, but get over that and, become buddies with each other.
Right. No, and even the quote-unquote bad people amongst the human race weren't mean-spirited. They just had a job they had to do.
Even Gul Dukat and Garrick, even in spite of them having being bad guys, and Quark also from DS9, them all having bad traits, they still had somewhat of a moral compass to them.
Right. Yeah, and also there was a sense of greater optimism that the peace can be had. Like in the original series, the Klingons are the bad guys; they're the enemy of the Federation. And then in the next generation, the generation later, they're allied with each other. So
in the next generation, they're literally on each other's ships, crewing each other's vehicles.
Right.
Yeah. So that was meant to have an optimistic. Today's enemies can be tomorrow's friends.
Well, I just want to say that I don't want us to be arguing based off of my synopsis of just the first episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm just purely talking about that one first episode. There wasn't any actual chemical or anything like that sort of relationship between the people.
I'm talking about Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Lower Decks.
Right.
They're both just. Picard is
Did
nothing.
You watch those?
I watched some of Picard, and I hated every second of it. And I refuse to watch Lower Decks because it just seems like the Family Guy-ification of Star Trek.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me. And I was really looking forward to Picard when it was announced, just because I absolutely love Patrick Stewart as the character in the original Next Generation. Picard is a fantastic character. He is a man that every man in the world wants to be his boss. He's a man who commands nothing but respect wherever he goes. He's this enlightened intellectual who only ever uses violence when it's absolutely necessary.
Right. And I thought Picard, Patrick Stewart playing Picard would demand, character accuracy.
I got a question. With what you just said there, Loudmouth, does that mean that Picard was incompetent?
He was never incompetent in the original series. He was the movies too a bit.
I'm making a joke. I'm making a reference to Isaac Asimov's quote that was pulled here, saying that violence is the last refuge of the incompetent.
Well,
but so I guess according to Isaac Asimov, Picard was incompetent.
Some of his speeches are really fantastic. There was an episode from the 5th season where Wesley at the Academy basically left out information on the inquiry to the death of a combatant, and I love this speech where Picard chews him out for that. The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it be historical truth or literal truth. The truth is always important. You told the truth to an extent, but a lie by omission is still a lie.
Right.
And he says, from the moment I first met you, I saw you as a child. No, I never once doubted that you would grow to be a great Starfleet officer until now. I'm like that was absolutely brutal, and it was completely deserved. It was just a fantastic scene.
That was an interaction between Picard and who? Wesley was. He's a little boy in Star Trek TNG.
Well, he's about 15 in the first season. This was season 5, so he was about 20.
Okay.
So by then he was a young man, and Picard just says, I thought you would grow up to be something special, and after what you did here, I don't know anymore.
So Wesley was calling out Picard for lying by omission.
No, Picard called him out.
Picard was calling him out.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic speech. He always had a great patriarchal sense, Patrick Stewart. He always projected that, which of course in his vocal role in The Prince of Egypt, kind of it twisted.
Wait, the vocal role in The Prince of Egypt. Who did he voice?
Where he voiced Seti in The Prince of Egypt, Patrick Stewart.
Oh,
really?
Oh my!
He was in The Prince of
son.
Egypt?
He was the voice of Seti, and he had that same kind of commanding patriarchal tone throughout his character. But of course, we saw when Moses kind of realizes what he is in that scene, it's probably one of the most chilling in all
They
cinema.
were merely
I can imagine that being Patrick Stewart, but Patrick Stewart must have been making his voice even deeper to play as Seti, because that is like deeper than what he usually sounds like.
Yeah. Well, he
Seti
had
in Prince of
this
Egypt.
assuring patriarchal tone when he says that line, even though that line's one of the most despicable things that any human being could possibly say.
Oh, it was so. Oh
Dude.
God, it was. I remember that as a kid seeing that in this Sunday school that my mom would drop me off at, right?
Yeah.
And like that was just so disturbing. It was like, oh, it was awful, and it like you instantly hated him.
Yeah,
They
that
were
line
only
really puts a pit in your
slaves.
stomach when he says that line. Oh my
Oh, yeah.
son, they were only slaves.
And you're just like, oh, your dad's a monster.
Yeah. And in the continuity of that movie, that's the last thing he hears from his adopted father. That's the last thing he ever hears him say.
Right.
I need to watch that movie again. That was such a good movie.
I'd
I
say
do
Patrick
too.
Stewart just does such a great job of portraying that kind of patriarchal.
The domineering leader
Yeah.
voice.
Right, exactly. He's really good at that. It's just a role he
Right.
was made for.
In the case of Picard, he is the good kind of patriarchy and masculinity, whereas as Seti, he was the bad kind of masculinity
Exactly.
and patriarchy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole lot more nuanced than what you think it is, feminist, as far as patriarchy and masculinity goes.
Correct.
So, fuck out of
Exactly.
here. Anyway, I think we're ready to continue.
All right, let's go.
They simply don't understand why the people of that world were never able to let go of their hate for each other. Woke. And how many times in science fiction have we seen aliens or robots be presented as analogs for oppressed groups of people? The episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where Riker dates a transgender alien. Woke. The way robots...
So apparently, Glory, I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie. Glory was woke just because it was portraying an oppressed group of people, black people back in those days, that was being thrusted into the Civil War by force.
Right, but he's actually correct about that one episode with Riker and that transgender alien. That episode was very clearly meant to be an allegory for oppression of homosexuals. And more specifically, kind of an attack on gay conversion therapy. As
Right.
basically, if they meet a society that is kind of like doesn't have gender, like where everyone is, I guess, is hermaphroditical, and they reproduce like as a collective. They don't form like pair bonding relationships, even though their ancestors did. And one person who Riker meets, kind of like played by a woman, decides to identify as a female, like with a gender, and thus her society kind of views her now as a deviant for having a gender, and it has kind of a very dark ending because she pleads for them to not do so. But in the very last scene, she I guess she was brainwashed because she's like, I realized I was insane before, but I'm happy now.
Right.
This brings up
Holy shit.
This brings up another point. Like going later into this video, it seems that Quinn is just appropriating all these pro-equal rights, pro-civil rights, and pro-egalitarianism sort of beliefs that are being portrayed in these different pieces of media, and just appropriating them all as woke. It brings another bigger point. Like, I don't know if, I think I saw this from the Cavernacle, actually. Like, you guys know who he is, right?
Cavernacle.
Not
He's
really.
He's that one dipshit, uncharitable, straw-manning socialist, far-left twit. But nonetheless, I did not actually watch this video, but I think it might have been him. It was somebody, anyways. But the title of the video was talking about wokeism and how it's supposedly not real or whatever the exact topic was. But it was
Cancel culture's not real.
well, yeah, that's one of his videos, and I'll have to make a response to that sometime. But nonetheless, in the thumbnail of that video, it was portraying Superman punching Adolf Hitler, and he was portraying that as, oh, apparently woke. So
I dare him to talk to any World War II veteran and try to tell them that that women can have penises.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So apparently any kind of anti-racial authoritarianism is woke, any kind. So apparently us three on this panel are woke just because we disagree with Nazism and Jim Crow laws.
Guess so. I guess so. That's very broad definition, but that seems to change by the minute, right?
Yeah, but
that's literally the point of it.
That's literally, or I won't say literally because definitions are kind of subjective in some cases, but that is literally not the wokeism that we go preaching against, Quinn. When we go preaching against, when we go like, go speaking against wokeism or SJW culture or whatever, we go speaking against the diversity just for the sake of diversity, and diversity at the sacrifice of character development. But
the people that would say, oh, go ahead.
But having messages of anti-racial authoritarianism is not woke in that kind of sense at all. So you're just gaslighting and borderline strawmanning us all, like, and appropriating it for your own arguments here, Quinn. It's just like kind of bullshit, the argumentation you're doing here, Quinn, quite honestly.
It is. It's absolute bullshit. And more than that, like, it's a leftist thing that they do, where they actively say all things good are within my philosophy.
Right.
And they do that through word games by claiming, oh, interracial kiss is woke and diverse. And it's like, well, for the rest of us out in the world, an interracial kiss is normal. We wouldn't even refer to it as an interracial kiss. I have never once in my life seen two people kissing that are of different races and be like, oh, you see that white man and that black woman?
And the whole point that you mentioned about he's essentially trying to say all things good are part of my beliefs or my type of beliefs, my ideology or whatever. I will be the first to admit that the idea of not systematically oppressing gay people, banning them from, having their gay marriages or whatever, I will be the first to admit that idea is not inherent within conservatism, normie conservatism here in America. Like typically, if we wanted to play 100% into the conservative stereotype, they would be for banning it. If I wanted to play 100% into conservatism, I would say, yeah, ban gay marriage now. But no, that's not my belief. And so I will be the first to admit that that I am taking that one belief from liberalism and believing that myself. Not everything liberalism is good, I will say.
No, and well, even further than that, that was Dick Cheney's position in 1998.
Ban gay marriage?
No, he was for gay marriage.
Oh, he was for getting, okay.
The vice president of George W. Bush. And in 2008, a majority of Christians were okay with gay marriage.
2008, I
kind of doubt that, but
no, they were. No, 40% of churches in America in 2008 were willing to marry gay people.
That's not a majority, dude.
No. That was the churches. But when polled, the majority of Americans were okay with it. It's just that the churches wouldn't marry gay people.
I mean, I personally don't give a shit about gay marriage either way.
I don't either.
It's a non-issue for me.
Well, I take the Dick Cheney position of, why is the government involved in what the church or what two individuals do at all?
Or the Penn-Jillette belief on that.
Well, that was the Dick Cheney position in 1998. Why is the church legislating marriage?
Okay. I did not want to get us down on a huge
we're off topic now. Let's go.
Yeah, sorry.
It's fine.
Robots are portrayed in Asimov's books. Woke. It goes on and on.
All right, I've had it. This is all just virtue signaling. You didn't even talk about the new garbage Apple SJW Foundation show or the Trashville.
Here it's coming. Trucker. Get ready.
What movie? They turned the male characters into black females. They changed everything in favor of PC crap.
They aren't even out yet. You're basing these assumptions of wokeness off of a teaser trailer in the case of Foundation and a few still images in the case of Dune. But
So
Well,
basically,
actually, this is ironic because later I believe he makes very negative reviews of the Apple series because he said it's nothing like the book, which I haven't read the book, so I can't judge, but that's his later opinion. So I guess his naysayers were right, according to him.
okay.
Well,
I don't know about that, but nonetheless, I just wanted to point out. I mean, taking chronology not into account, just to, looking at this video right now, he's just hand waving away the fact that they go gender bending Liet Kynes here. So take it away, Trucker. How is it a bad thing that they gender bend Liet Kynes? School Quinn right here.
It's a very bad thing in the deep lore of Dune. Yeah, as a one-off in a movie, you're never going to explain how gender works in Dune in the movies. Fair enough. It won't change anything. But if you're a deep lore person, it's horrible. And there's a reason. For one, I'm sure Loudmouth's point is, and it holds up 100% on its own. Holy crap, my phone's about to die. 5% battery. It's disrespectful to the author in the first place. Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
by the way, plug in your phone so that you can stay on this call.
For real. But more than that, gender is important in the Dune universe. It's very important.
Yeah.
For one, before I get into why Kynes is important alone, as just a great example, the Bene Gesserit exists as an all-female organization because until you get to the Muad'Dib, till you get to the One, only women are able to use the spice in a way that they can access genetic memory and they could do spells, for lack of a better word, right? And more than that, men, the navigators are exclusively men because the spice enhances their thinking capacity, their intelligence. And what the navigators do is they literally do a mathematical formula in their head that bends space and time. And that's because that's how spice affects men, whereas the Bene Gesserit is how spice affects women.
Right. And
right?
Kynes is neither a Bene Gesserit nor a navigator.
No, I'm just getting on to the point that widely speaking, gender is very important, but also on top of that, Kynes is hyper intelligent. He's very intelligent. He single-handedly is responsible for the future terraforming of Dune, of Arrakis.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't there a former position that he used to take that they exclusively only accept males for that position that he was in?
Well, that too, I was going to get into that.
Yeah.
But also the civilization, I guess, neo-feudal civilization they're in, only men can be world leaders. And which is why the Bene Gesserit are in the background manipulating things, right? And it's not that women are less important in the Dune world. It's that the civilization itself has kings above all else.
Although it seems that Paul's little sister becomes steward of the empire for a few years.
Right. Women can become stewards, but they can't become kings. They can't. Eventually, a man will take over.
Because essentially, it's the Dune universe, even though it's far in the future, is kind of a medieval ethic to it.
Right. But also on top of that,
she was still a leader of sorts, though, was the point that I was trying to get at.
No, she had the same exact
powers,
like power and governing capabilities. It's just that eventually, if it wasn't for the fact that Paul was her brother, eventually she'd be replaced by a random man. Really, like Paul and Leto being there changed that horrendously. Like they fucked up the entire power structure. Was kind of the point.
Right.
But,
Jessica did so by betraying her sisterhood by giving birth to a boy instead of a girl.
Right. But with Kynes, it's very important because he's the father of Paul's wife, and and it Paul's. I mean, Paul. Oh goddamn! What was Paul's wife's name?
Johnny.
Well,
Chani.
Actually, no. I'm sorry. Irulan was his wife, but Chani was like his concubine and his mate.
Well, Chani was his real wife.
Chani was his lover. They weren't like officially married, but anyway, the point is that Irulan, he was like officially married, and Chani was the one that actually gave birth to his kids.
Right.
Yeah.
But Chani, the reason it's important is that Chani came from a line where the women were usually handmaids to the Reverend Mothers, and they were usually next in line to become Reverend Mothers. And now what you're doing is you're literally you're messing up that lore. While obviously the Reverend Mother picked who became next.
Well, obviously, Leah Kynes would not have been a Reverend Mother, though.
Right, and Chani likely never would have became a Reverend Mother unless she was hyper intelligent and capable of changing the structures of the molecular structure of the poison, which is that's how it happens. You get a bunch of poisonous worm juice, basically. Anyway, but her family was historically the handmaids of the Reverend Mothers, and now changing her mother, now making Kynes a female, what that does is that takes that rule out of the family entirely. And so now Chani has almost no reason to become the handmaid to Paul's mother, who becomes the Reverend Mother, other than, hey, I'll be your handmaid. But beforehand, there was, during the entire time period that Chani is the handmaiden to the Reverend Mother, it's her role in that society, and they're pushed together, and it forces a relationship to form between Paul's mother and Chani. And Paul's mother hated Chani; she did not like her, and it forces them together. Whereas now Paul's mother could just get another handmaid.
I'm trying to understand this. I feel like that in our phone call that we had a few days ago, Trucker, you were able to like break it down a whole lot quicker and more succinct as to how that. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to condescend you or anything, but it seemed like that you were able to like do it a whole lot quicker and more precise in the phone call as to how that Leah Kynes being a male was important within the lore of Dune.
Well, for one, he never probably would have gotten the role that he did as the Emperor's basically envoy of Arrakis and terraformer of Arrakis.
If he was a female?
Yeah, never would have happened. Just, guess what? That society is sexist towards women.
Right. According
individuals to like Leto wasn't sexist. He loved women. He had them in very important roles in his society, in his governing, but that was rare.
Right, but under Emperor what's-his-face, it was sexist, and you had Leah Kynes, who was an envoy of the Emperor for a time until Leah Kynes like betrayed them and decided to join the Fremen, basically.
Right. Well,
actually, the Baron just has him executed at the end while into the desert.
Because Leah Kynes was both a spy for the Emperor and the Fremen people, and the Baron understood that.
Yeah, the Baron just throws him out into the desert because the Baron, being a sadistic fuck he is.
So basically, for it to make any lore sense for Leah Kynes to be a female, basically Denis Villeneuve and Warner Brothers Studios would have to make a whole lot more changes to the lore within their own movie as compared to the books, and that just opens up a completely new can of worms. Right,
which is just why it is. You shouldn't need a good excuse to not change something. Or if it's there in the book, all right, you really need to justify every single change, and this is just a change that I don't think is justified.
Right. No, and women take, and here's the other part of this, even throughout the first half of the book, women take incredibly important roles. I mean, Paul's mother literally becomes the leader of all of Fremen society. And she single-handedly is the reason he's still alive.
Right.
And more than that,
she slips. They escape the what was it? The Harkonnen guards because the Harkonnens guards want to rape her, and then she basically uses the voice to manipulate them into fighting each other.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking. Oh, she plays on stupid man hormones like an expert.
Yeah.
And
she's described in the book as being a very beautiful woman.
Yeah, and on top of that, Chani is almost the only reason, other than Paul, personally proving himself as a fighter. Outside of that, Chani's the only reason that Paul even gets accepted and into their society. And Chani is hugely, like, she is the reason that Paul comes to accept his role as a Fremen leader.
Right.
He loves her, and she's a Fremen. And so for them to change a character because, we need more women, it's pointless because women hold the most important roles throughout this book.
Yeah, according to Frank Herbert's own lore. You were about to say something, though, Loudmouth?
Yeah. Chani is like real, like her Zendaya as her is played up so much in the trailers, but from what I hear, she's not really in the final movie very much because Chani's barely in the first half of the book. She's not real. She's introduced to well into it.
Yeah. I heard something that she's going to be the main protagonist in part 2 of that
actually was misquoted. She'll be the main female protagonist of part 2. Paul will still be the main character.
Yeah, and even then, she's very important. Like, she fights alongside the guys and everything else. And
apparently that was according to Quinn, though. So Quinn, get fact checked.
Denis Villeneuve, he clarified that statement. Paul will still be the main character of part 2. And now that it's cost $100 million, I think that we will actually get part 2. Yay!
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, I was like,
it has not come out in its 2 biggest markets yet, and it still cost $100 million.
Oh, awesome. I'm so excited.
So,
when you consider the pandemic, that's pretty damn good.
Right.
Oh.
Right.
But real quick, I'll say this much: changing Liet Kynes for really, really messes up deep lore, like the stuff I just went into that no book, no movie will ever bother getting into.
Well, that's probably one thing they thought of when they did that. Like, but is the movies ever going to really get into this stuff? Probably not.
I do want to draw up a bit of an analogy by bringing forth another franchise, Battlestar Galactica. So I first watched the 2000 series with Edward James Olmos and Katie Sackhoff in it, and I really loved that series. But getting into the special features, apparently, they gender bend some of the characters. Like Boomer was a black dude, but now he's a Chinese woman. And, Starbuck was a dude and now is played by Katie Sackhoff. Like, I just want to say that if we were to draw a comparison between Dune and Battlestar Galactica, as far as I'm concerned, there is no deep lore importance to why that Starbuck or Boomer are supposed to be a male or female. Whereas with Liet Kynes' case in Dune, there is some deep lore reasoning as to why that he should have been kept as a male in the 2021 Dune movie.
Right, but the thing about Battlestar Galactica is the original series was pretty flawed as a show. The remake is very, very, very different. It's a completely different show, but honestly, it's probably better overall.
Oh no, I completely agree. The acting and everything and the cinematography was very stiff for the old series, and honestly,
the acting was kind of corny. It wasn't really until the Next Generation that we got really good sci-fi shows in the 80s.
Honestly, I will have to say that Colonel Saul Tigh, even though that some SJWs will be saying, they whitewash Saul Tigh because originally he was a black dude, I have to say that Saul Tigh being played by what's-his-face, the white dude that my parents said looks a lot like John McCain.
He kind of does. He does look a lot like John McCain.
But nonetheless,
but
nonetheless, I think that he is a bit better than the black Saul Tigh. No offense to anybody who might, take offense to that saying. I just the character and the charisma and all that stuff just puts a little bit more third dimensionalness, whatever, to his character in the newer series.
The difference, though, with between those two examples is the remake of Battlestar Galactica was meant to be a completely different reimagining, whereas this is supposedly meant to be a faithful adaptation of a novel. So it's very different.
Right. I guess
Right,
so.
but like we said, and like Loudmouth pointed out, they probably thought of this deep lore stuff, and we're like, well, we're not going to get into this deep lore stuff like I did. And
right.
Yeah, I made that joke and quote where I say, quote, adaptation of all things requires sacrifice. Sayings of Loudmouth by the Princess Irulan.
that's actually a good one. I like that. But
Go on.
yeah, but
Make your point, and then we
doesn't-
do have to continue.
okay, but it's still annoying for deep lore people like me, where I start thinking about these things and I'm like, wait a second.
Right.
And it should be annoying to Quinn if he really is a deep lore fan of
But no, apparently because he, I don't know, he's letting his
I
elephant
don't think
control
he
him, as Stitch and Adam would say, and it's just going against anti-SJWs just for the sake of going anti-SJWs at this point.
Well, I've heard his videos on the subject before. He doesn't seem to approve of the change. He doesn't seem to like it, but he just kind of accepts it, which is fine.
yeah, and I accept it. It's just to pretend like it doesn't have issues is silly.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean, maybe in
I'll
other
agree
videos.
it's not something that ruins the movie or anything.
Oh, yeah, I agree too. Like, overall, the quality of this movie is going to be upstanding in spite of the gender bend. I'm probably going to be too encapsulated by the dynamics of Paul and Leto Atreides and the charisma of Jason Momoa's Duncan Idaho and the psychopathy of the Baron Harkonnen. But,
Yeah.
to be
Oh,
focused on
especially
those
if they I hope they
None of-
go all out with the Baron, how evil he is, because
yeah.
woo!
But nonetheless, I have to say that he might, in other videos, has said that he has an issue with the Elliot Kynes gender bend. But in here, he does not show that. In fact, he tries his damnedest to say, "You're wrong, Mr. Organism, so-and-so number of the planet Trillion. You're just wrong."
Mr. Parody.
Yeah, Mr. Strawman Parody. Even with this whole thing of the gender bend, you're overreacting. This is nothing to complain about. Blah 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 blah. And he's just hand waving it away, just frivolously. When really it is an issue. It's not a deal breaker, but it is somewhat of an issue. You could have still in this video gone all like, okay, yeah, that's an issue. I will grant you. But everything else, you're still wrong. But that's not what Quinn says. He just says, no, even on this, you're over-complaining. So, Quinn, you got to get your arguments straight.
Right.
All right, just play it.
All right.
Why does it matter anyway for such minor characters? Isn't it better to...
Because you can't change what the author intended.
Honestly, Organism, if you cared so much about authorial intent, you'd be more upset about David Lynch's movie,
Which a lot of Dune buffs and
Yeah,
also
that's the thing,
anti-SJWs
though.
do take issue with that.
Oh, infinitely more
Where does it
issue than
follow
this.
that if you're, where does it follow that you must, if you don't like this change, then you must have been okay with David Lynch's changes? Most of David Lynch's changes were terrible.
Oh, they were awful.
Yeah,
And also,
much
you
worse.
keep mentioning them and bringing back PTSD.
Yeah, the whole milking the cat thing was one of the dumbest.
Ah,
Why did he milk the fucking cat?
milk. That's going to be my new response of like, why did you do this? Why did you milk the cat?
Yes, why? I don't know if you ever remember. There was a Ben Stiller movie from the early 2000s where he talks about milking a cat. Maybe Ben Stiller was a big fan of David Lynch. I don't know.
I don't know, but I just gotta say, like, oh damn it, I cannot remember that milking the cat part. Like, I did watch the original David Lynch movie in its entirety, although for all I remember, I might have fallen asleep at some certain points because it was overall pretty boring back then when I first watched it. But I don't remember any cat milking parts. But anyways, I'll just take your guys' words for it.
by the way, has a rainstorm at the end of it, which Frank Herbert hated. Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie is shaping up to be far more accurate than David Lynch's Dune ever dreamed to be. Again, I did a whole video on the problems with the David Lynch Dune movie. So honestly, Organism, don't you think you're just being a little bit dishonest?
That's kind of projection right there, considering that he is pretending that every single anti-SJW Dune fan is all like, oh, David Lynch is better than Denis Villeneuve, hands down.
You could
I've actually
smear.
never made that claim whatsoever. Lynch didn't even read the book before he was selected as director of the movie.
You could smear shit in front of a camera, and you might be more accurate than David Lynch.
I won't go that far. Okay, Lynch's movie kind of does tell the story skeletonally similar, even though it's missing a shit ton of details up until the end where it completely shits the bed. But most of it follows the basics of the story.
Right.
But
I
about
guess
as accurately as Narnia follows the Bible. Well, hell, actually, Narnia might be more accurate to the Bible.
I mean, the ending completely changes things, but other than that, it kind of like is like a very rough clip show version of the book with a few weird changes here and there until then.
Milking a cat.
I also want to say that
Yeah.
if I was to give Quinn the benefit of the doubt that this strawman character that he's making for his video is in fact not a strawman, but just some low-hanging fruit person that he in real life actually encountered with his arguing over wokeness in Dune, I mean, it's kind of uncharitable. Isn't it kind of uncharitable to be calling him a dishonest, Quinn? I mean, basically, according to the straw man, he's just admitting ignorance. He's just ignorant more than anything. Like, ignorance does not always translate to dishonesty. Like, I don't know. It's just a bit of an asshole move on Quinn's part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Nope. Not.
Sorry?
Oh, I said, yeah.
Just keep playing.
Right.
Even a little bit. You're just wrong.
Okay, care to elaborate on how then?
Nope. You're just wrong. And you're an ugly liberal.
Okay, computer eject foreign organism.
Ejecting foreign organism.
No, this video's trash.
I have got to install some better security. I have no idea how that guy keeps penetrating my trans-dimensional shield devices. Anyway, the thing is, guys, the word woke, like so many other things these days, doesn't really mean anything anymore. I asked on Twitter for people to send me their own definition of woke, and every single one was different. Here's the deal. You have hypocritical liberals that slap the term onto themselves, but then do nothing to actually fight oppression.
Yet most of your video was not at all devoted towards criticizing them, but only and exclusively to criticizing the anti-wokesters.
No, but to be fair, though, Quinn has actually attacked those people in other videos. Particularly, he took issue with some idiots who were talking about giving the movie negative reviews because it's a white savior story. And Quinn rightfully does a good job of refuting them. So
fair point, but I'm
Quinn,
okay.
even in this video, he's attacking the other side. He has actually done exactly that in other videos. So I'm gonna white knight Quinn a little bit on this one.
Fair point. I just
Frank Herbert
feel
would be disappointed with you.
Wait, what?
I still have respect for Quinn, even though I do kind of think he did engage in some straw men in this video, and it's not a very good video, but I still think Quinn is a good content creator. He seems like a good fellow.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this much. Let me say this much. This last part I completely forgot about, but it seems Quinn is more open, even though I do still hold that he's definitely a lefty. Maybe he's not a leftist, and
yeah, no.
And if he is, he's still more open to criticism than most leftists.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
And so maybe I was a bit bad faith earlier in saying, like, oh, he's definitely a leftist type. But, well, I wasn't bad faith. I was incorrect because I haven't seen much of his stuff. But if he does hold...
stuff, it's good stuff.
All right, but it's good stuff, man. But if he does hold to this left-wing idea of wokeism being a good thing, of, aware of social inequities, then he's definitely a lefty. But even if he is, he's more open to criticize the left than most leftists are.
Yeah.
Sure.
Onto themselves, but then do nothing to actually fight oppression, unwilling to actually adjust the way they live for change. It's just a badge for them to show to their friends. And then on that same coin, there are people on the right that just slap the word woke on any and everything that they don't agree with. And it's even gotten to the point where often, even if one black character shows up in a film or TV show, it's immediately labeled as woke trash.
That people like no bullshit is all like the suspicious amount of female characters surrounding Black Panther.
So sadly, he's not really completely strawmanning because no bullshit and people like him do exist.
Right?
No. You remember him complaining about? Oh, look! It seems like they've made MJ a black girl, and it's like you realize Spider-Man has slept with more than one woman, right?
And also the whole thing about this all-female fight that happens going towards the end of Infinity War. Woke garbage, y'all. Or woke criticism towards Infinity War.
But he's like and actually, I think he quit YouTube or something because he hasn't made any videos in months.
Well, he has made the world a better place if he did quit.
I don't know. I don't know what
curious.
happened to the guy. He just seemed to have disappeared, which I'm okay with because the collective IQ of YouTube seems to have raised a few points.
Oh yeah. No. I remember when him and White YouTuber did a collab together, and early on I was like, "This no bullshit guy seems weird."
I saw some of his earlier stuff, and I thought this guy doesn't seem that smart, but he seems like an okay guy. And then other incidents of him where he revealed his true colors, that he's not only is he much more than not that smart, not only is he incredibly stupid, but he also is a really vicious and deceitful individual.
Oh, wait. Apparently, okay, so I go typing up no BS on YouTube, and the first thing that pops up is a video by Cirrus, who Cirrus is not that good of a YouTuber himself, but he goes, his video is, wait, where is no BS? So apparently there's heavy implications that he has left YouTube, it seems. Or wait, actually, no. The next video down is a video by the channel of No BS. So videos.
When was it made?
The video made by Cirrus was 4 months ago, but the latest video that No BS has made was 3 months ago. And then the one before that was 6 months ago. So
we all got
he
dumber.
was forced to get a real job.
Right.
Looks like it. Is it like my views are dwindling here? I'm not getting the ad revenue. I gotta get myself a construction job or something.
My dad no longer pays for my YouTube channel. You know that's exactly what he was. He was living off his parents trying to become YouTube famous.
I don't know. He got enough subscribers that he probably was making a decent living off his channel for a while.
No, I'm just.
Hello?
Oh, shit. I don't know.
Trucker, you kind of cut out there. Did we lose him? Let me.
I think we did.
Holy shit, Trucker! No. Anyway,
Oh, he's back.
Trucker, what were you saying? You got cut off right there.
Oh no. Apparently he's been on YouTube for like 10 years with like almost as many different channels, and the only one that ever got any real subscription count was No BS.
Yeah.
Right.
It tried tried various different things. It's mostly just incredibly easy content, just SJW moments in everything. Just say.
Also his previous channel.
What's up?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like really simplistic content. Oh, there's women in this video. SJW shit.
There's vaginas. Oh my god.
Right.
No, but like his previous channel before No Bullshit was literally a ripoff of Cinema Sins.
Yeah.
Right.
Brooks. Yeah.
I'll be right back. I just had to take a piss, by the way, y'all.
All right. Okay.
Hey, when does the when does the Dune movie come out here in America?
October 22nd.
God damn it! I'll be on the road that day. I know it.
Yeah. I'm trying to gather some friends of mine to all see it on opening night.
Dude, I want to see it so much.
Yeah, a lot of them are giving a shit because a lot of them now are married and living further apart. And it's kind of depressing, but I'm trying.
How dare they?
Yeah, I know. How dare they start their own lives? How dare they have things to do other than see a fucking movie when I want them to?
They betrayed you.
I know. It's fine, but I'm saying but I'm still trying to make it work.
Oh yeah, no, same here. I'm in the same boat. Most of my friends are like married or getting married or having kids, and it's very weird to be that dude who's still single and doesn't have kids.
Right.
Especially me, because I'm like, hey, let's go shoot a bunch of guns, and they're like, I have a baby. I can't be around loud sounds.
Yes.
But no,
the
my thing with
kid's a full 3 months old. He should be able to take care of himself.
hey, he should be able to load a gun. Come on, child.
Oh yeah. Dark jokes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I don't care. It's a funny joke. Come on.
It's dark jokes. It's fine. But what was I going to say? But I'm still trying to see it. I want to see it in like the biggest screen I can find. And I barely even go to the movies anymore, mostly because almost everything looks like complete trash.
Apparently, free guy is really good.
I saw the trailers. It didn't look appealing, so I didn't see it.
Well, the trailers made it look but from what I've heard from both DirtCon and other people who only praise things if they absolutely are worth it, is that it actually is really good. And like, it's not like,
and that was actually an all right flick. It wasn't that good because it had inappropriate use of humor in some spots, which every Marvel movie feels the need to do, and kind of some dumb pop culture references. But other than that, it was mostly pretty fun.
Well, that was actually one thing I was wondering about, because the trailers make it out to be a bit more serious than most other Marvel movies have been.
No.
Really?
No.
Well,
what I find most funny about it is it heavily panders to Chinese audiences, like a big chunk of it.
And it got banned in China?
It got banned in China, yeah. Yes, it got banned in China, even though it heavily panders to Chinese audiences. Like 25% of the movie is in Mandarin, but still got banned in China.
Funny. Oh.
I was talking about Shang-Chi. I saw that recently. I thought it was an okay flick, but I was just saying how hilarious it is that Disney heavily pandered to Chinese audiences in it, and it got banned in China just because the actor he criticized the CCP by saying they're starving in China, which of course is ridiculous. Everyone in China is incredibly economically prosperous. Nobody's starving.
Oh, yeah, like absolutely, it does not exist. I mean, look at these statistics and graphs that the Chinese government released.
I know. And would the Chinese Communist Party lie to us? No way.
You remember Brandon's old boyfriend?
Taylor?
Yeah, him. He would do that shit. He's like, look, I got graphs from the USSR. And I'm like, that's right. And it's like, dude, it's the USSR.
Man, such a charismatic and friendly personality wasted on a guy who believes in such a psychotic belief and panders to such a psychotic state, that being the CCP.
Yeah,
well, he also became a libertarian for like 3 months. So I think his issue is more of I'm loath to say it because it does sound bad, but it's true, I think. He's one of those people whose political opinion is swayed by his mental state, and he doesn't have the best mental health.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
I know it sounds horrible, but
so anyway,
keep in mind, but I was really friends with him.
Libertarian for 3 months, though. I never heard of this.
Yeah, and he got all kinds of crap from the communists for it.
What point was it?
It was right before I got kicked off Twitter.
So what? This would have been 2019, 2018, or what would it have been?
I don't even remember when I first got kicked off Twitter permanently. I was off for over a year, man.
So it would not have been before Trump's election, right? Because I do remember him saying that he was once a Trump supporter in 2016.
No, he used to be a hardline libertarian, and then he became a full-blown USSR communist, and then he became a hardline libertarian for a short time again, and then he became a communist again.
Weird.
No, and you get my point of why I think there's more reasons than actual.
Hey, by
politics.
the way, not mean to rag on Taylor that much, but by the way, this guy is the guy who's called cultural boomerist, and that you got in an argument with about Israel and Palestine and racism in America in 2018, Loudmouth. Remember that?
That was a while ago.
I got into arguments with him all the time, and I like Taylor. I do. It's just honest truth after hanging out with him.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole. I just mentioned Shang-Chi just because I saw that, and well, like there's even like the characters like enter like an alternate fantasy dimension where there's a bunch of CGI creatures that look like old ancient Chinese art. So like an ancient China fantasy world, and it's and a big chunk of the dialogue is in Mandarin, so it heavily panders to that audience, yet still got banned in China. And I was just talking about how just ironic that is.
Oh no, and the whole thing is, the funny thing about that is too, them having showed ancient Chinese art and lore is part of what got them banned. Because if you start showing old China, current China is afraid that people will get reminiscent.
Huh.
But don't you know, China never accomplished a single thing before communism. Yes, communism is what made everything great.
They were never a full-blown empire. They never built any national or international great monuments, wonders of the world.
Never invented gunpowder or the printing press. Nope. Communism.
Compasses.
Compasses.
Yeah, oh my God, the CCP is so dumb.
You know, it's funny because originally they invented gunpowder as a form of a flamethrower at first.
Right.
It was more like a flamethrower. Yeah, it just basically burst you with burning gunpowder. Could you imagine that? I'd rather get shot.
And soon after that, they mastered it to be more precise and, you know, use it as a to help propel projectiles towards people, aka make firearms.
Yes and no. The furthest they got with it was like a proto blunderbuss, which you know, a blunderbuss is a proto gun. And
but what are you saying? Are you saying that it's Europeans who took gunpowder and actually made guns?
Yeah,
ones that we would recognize. What they had was basically a giant blunderbuss. That it was literally a miniature cannon without a cannonball.
Right. It kind of reminds me of the printing press as well, because China originally invented the printing press, and then Gutenberg, I can't remember his first name right now. A German named Gutenberg, he made it so that you can like change out the letters from the printing press instead of having to like make entirely new tablets to do the printing. You don't have to like change out the entire tablet. You just have to change out individual letters and print it from there.
So different cultures kind of like build upon each other and improve on each other's inventions. That's
and I'm sure
the beginning of human history.
And I'm sure there's plenty of technology that China got from us that they improved. It's just I don't know about it much, honestly.
Germany made the automobile originally, and then an American named Henry Ford made it so that it's actually commercial. So it's actually, you know, sellable to the poor people.
And how all the CCP does today is steal American technology all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like half the shit they build is just stuff that through espionage they stole from American universities and military bases and what have you. Various hacks.
So I guess there is one final thing that I want to mention about the video. By the way, obviously, since I put out the display, pretty much done with the Quinn's Ideas videos. The last of it was just the finishing skit. But he brought forth a screen cap of the new James Bond movie, of how people are complaining about that, and was trying to make the point that, anti-SJWs, it's gone so bad for people on the right to where that they're all like, even if they show a black person at all, it's instantly woke garbage. But I don't think that's really what is the case with James Bond.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. The criticism of No Time to Die seems to center from some statements that Bond would be like demasculated in that they would move away from the qualities, the more masculine, womanizing qualities of the earlier James Bond. I think people took issues with that because they liked the Connery, suave, debonair, womanizing James Bond.
He wasn't. Right. I don't even think he was womanizing. He just was he believed they had their gender rules, and he sure as hell liked working women.
It's not even that they race bent, or they're in the process, anyways, of race bending James Bond. It's the fact that they are in the process of gender bending James Bond.
I think there was a joke of the Babylon Bee just did that said James Bond will stay male and will be played by Elliot Page.
I love it. That would be.
I love the Babylon Bee. They're great.
Oh, did you see their oh man, what did they quote? It was great. They had one recently that was just amazing about but I saw something that
Australian hospitals are
yes,
because of people being beaten by the police for violating lockdown.
Right.
Yes, I saw that. That was genius.
For the sake of argument, though, what do you guys think of the idea of if Idris Elba was to be playing as a black James Bond instead of this what's-her-face black female?
I don't really care, to be honest, because honestly, I've never been the biggest Bond fan. But I think Idris Elba's only problem with that would be his age. Isn't he kind of old to just start the part?
Right.
Well,
he
there's
wouldn't
two
be able to
things
continue
with
the
that.
James Bond legacy for that long from his age.
Yeah, isn't he
Well,
like?
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
I have two things with. So was Sean Connery. He was old as hell when he took the role, wasn't he?
No, I don't believe so. I believe he was his late 30s, early 40s range. He was a bit younger.
Oh, wow, okay. But no, real quick, the other thing about that is, I don't know if there would be an issue with it, but James Bond was always supposed to be like a white Englishman, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But the thing with Idris Elba is, he is so undeniably freakishly British anyway.
Yeah.
he just might be able to power right through that.
Yeah.
Right.
He is so
I
British.
don't mind Idris Elba as an actor. I think he's pretty good.
Oh, he's a great actor. I love him as an actor. I'm just saying, like,
Idris Elba is 49 years old right now.
Oh, is he?
oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I remember him. I remember him in American Gangster. He didn't last long in that movie.
Right.
But
his last line in that movie is, "You're not going to shoot me, Frank." An ironic last line.
right.
Oh boy.
But yeah. So like, while there might be the issue that 007 is supposed to be a white English dude, Idris Elba is just such an Englishman.
Yeah, I really wouldn't give a shit. Mostly because I don't really care that much about James Bond. It's never been like my favorite franchise.
I've seen two of the
Connery,
James Bond movies.
Sean Connery was about 33 when he played as James Bond.
So
Really?
yeah, so Idris Elba was quite a bit older than Sean Connery.
Yeah, the first ever James Bond movie was 1963, or at least according to my quick search here. Dr. No. On May 8th, 1963, with the release of Dr. No, North American moviegoers get their first look down the barrel of a gun at the super spy James Bond, codenamed 007, the immortal character created by Ian Fleming in his now famous series of novels and portrayed on screen by the relatively unknown Scottish actor Sean Connery. And then Sean Connery, I googled him up a little bit earlier, and he was born in 1930. Rest in peace. He died.
Yeah, he died last year. He was 90 years old.
Oh, he died. He's one of the few actors I really like.
He's dead.
Yeah.
Time got him, just like it'll get us all.
Just like
Him and not him and oh man, I didn't even know he was dead. No man, the one that's hit me hard is Tom McDonald.
Right. I mean, that guy was still in his middle ages, wasn't he?
Late 50s,
Like
mid
Tom-
60s.
Maybe I'm thinking Norm MacDonald, actually.
Yeah, Norm MacDonald.
I said Tom McDonald, Norm
Yeah,
McDonald.
Tom
God damn it.
McDonald. That's the rapper that the right is like fawning
I
over.
said
Norm
Tom
Macdonald,
McDonald.
yeah,
I'm
he's
an
the-
idiot.
Yeah, Norm MacDonald's only 61. Yeah, he was a funny motherfucker. It's sad that he's gone.
He was 4 years younger than Tom Petty when he died.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom
Supposedly
Petty was what,
he's had cancer
65?
for like the past 9 years. He was fighting cancer, but he didn't publicly announce it.
Yeah,
Right.
it sounds like something Norm McDonald would do.
Yeah, that is such a bummer. Like, his weekend update stuff was great. I remember this one.
Dude,
that stuck in my head was one where he's talking about this this international chess master who lost a game. He says my mistake was that I didn't move my pawn 3 spaces up in the first corner and my king backwards 3 places, and then the end and talking about all these chess moves. In the end, he says all I can say is what the hell were you thinking?
But no,
the thing that
the one that gets me is the OJ and Hillary Clinton compilations. I love those so much.
Oh, he made so many OJ jokes. God, those were great.
Apparently, that's what got him fired from the Weekend Update because the executive producer believed in OJ.
The one thing that I wanted to mention about James Bond is, what do you guys think of this opinion? There is a whole lot more personality difference between a man and a woman than between a white man and a black man.
Duh.
Yeah, obviously.
Duh.
Wow, the audio crack right there.
Duh.
Sure.
So changing James Bond from white to black is like not as much of a character difference between changing him from male to female. I mean, the whole idea of
James Bond and be female, but he can still be James Bond and be black, possibly.
Here's another thing. James
as long
Bond,
as he's British.
There is no racial aspect to the stories of James Bond, is there?
No, there ain't. I'm just saying, like from the.
That's an actual question. There is no like racial aspect to any of the James Bond stories, is there?
Not really. No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So,
no, I'm not the biggest Bond fan, so maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Quote me.
My only real knowledge of James Bond comes from the 2 movies, only one of which I even remember at all.
I also
Razor Fist.
You know, Ben Shapiro actually said one time that he has less of an issue if they were to like change him to black than if they were to change him to female, because you change him from white to black instead of male to female. It doesn't change the geographics of James Bond's character as much. And that's the literal word that he used was geographics, because one of the key things, I mean, race doesn't play as much of a thing into James Bond. What does play a quintessential thing in James Bond character is that he's a ladies' man. And, you know, the sex, race doesn't play as much of a thing in it, but sex does. Gender does with James Bond.
James Bond was meant to be the guy everyone wants to be. You were meant to watch James Bond reason you would want to be him.
Right. So if you want to like make some super spy, some female super spy that's almost reminiscent of James Bond, just go with something completely new. Whoever is running the James Bond titles now.
Make a Charlie's Angels movie that doesn't suck. How about that?
Right. Or in this case, you have just one Charlie's Angel.
Yes.
They tried to do that with Salt. Did you guys ever watch Salt?
No.
No, never heard of it.
I think
it stars Angelina Jolie, but I don't believe I saw it. It didn't look appealing.
I did it. I can't remember hating it. I was too young for it to truly get into it when I first watched it, but it was okay, I guess, for what it was worth. But that's just another example of somebody like making a female super spy instead of appropriating a different culture, and that's another franchise, not another culture. My bad.
They appropriated my British culture.
Yeah. Anyway,
but in all seriousness, yeah. Idris Elba, you know, if you're going to race swap him, would be a perfect pick. Like if you had to race swap 007, Idris Elba every time. First choice, top of the bracket, no matter what.
Right.
But changing him to a woman, like...
Yeah, just as long as you don't put Denzel Washington anywhere in the movie.
Oh, God, no.
Denzel, what? You don't like Denzel Washington?
Again, a reference to American Gangster where Denzel Washington shoots Idris.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of a dark joke. Just don't put Denzel Washington in the movie.
Wait, Denzel Washington and Idris Elba played in a movie together once?
Yeah, American Gangster. They fight in the movie and Denzel Washington shoots him in the head.
You know,
point blank range. It was like, holy shit.
Both Denzel and Idris are like a couple of actors I appreciate more, that I respect and appreciate more than Will Smith. I mean, yes, to all the people who are reading at this stream, yes, I'm comparing black actors to each other, so suck it. But nonetheless, they have just.
How dare you not love Will Smith?
Right. Well, no, I like Will Smith. Don't get me wrong. I think
After
that
Earth
there's
sucked.
here's the thing. I think that with Idris Elba and Denzel Washington, a whole lot of their characters are a whole lot more down to earth and connected to the common man than Will Smith. Will Smith always plays this hot shot, pretty boy, city slicker kind of character in all of his good movies. And all of the bad movies, he tries to, I don't know, fuse Denzel Washington into himself, but he cannot encapsulate that same sort of man's man, common man personality that Idris or Denzel can, capture.
I agree, absolutely. Also, one thing, real
the
quick,
biggest thing with Will Smith is that he was offered the part of being Django and Django Unchained, and he turned it down so he could make After Earth, is one of the worst, stupidest pieces of shit I've ever seen in my life.
real quick about that movie. I understand why Will Smith did that. He was trying to help his son get into the acting career. He's trying to help his son have a career in the future, right?
Yeah.
And real quick, one thing I love about that movie, he did a late show interview after the movie premiered, and with his son, and I don't remember who it was with, but it ended up coming out that the movie that Will Smith did with his son was the first movie that Will Smith had been in over 20 years that wasn't top of the charts its first week coming out.
No, I don't believe that's the case because
No, iRobot was the top of the charts for one
there
when
was
it
one
first
we
came
did
out.
in 2008 called 7 Pounds, which is not top of the charts, but it was also a really pretentious and really mean-spirited movie. I really couldn't stand.
You didn't like 7 Pounds?
No.
I never even heard of it.
I don't know. From what I vaguely remember it, I
took issue with its promotion of suicide.
What? You took it as a promotion of suicide?
Yeah, in it he commits suicide to give this dying woman his organs at the end of the movie.
And multiple other people, like a blind man gets his eyes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the promotion of suicide, but I don't know. I'd have to see it.
I did not really take it as a promotion of. Oh god, I cannot. I mean, he wasn't killing
the whole
himself.
Jellyfish thing would have destroyed his internal organs because jellyfish poison. The way it kills you is it ruptures your cells internally, so it would make your organs unusable.
Oh, oof.
So he killed 20 people.
So the science, the biology is highly inaccurate with that movie, basically.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Oops.
Oh, also, I got to ask you.
I just
what
want to
was
say,
that one?
Wait. I want to get on this point before you get on a different tangent, Trucker. I did not really see it as a promotion of suicide because it's not really that Will Smith is just killing himself because life is too miserable and just for the sake of killing himself. He was killing himself for the sacrifice of other people would be the slight difference with that, in my opinion, Loudmouth.
I don't know. It didn't sit well with me. I know this character is dealing because he caused a tragedy and he obviously is dealing with immense guilt over it. But I think a better ending would have been him learning to get over it and forgive himself.
Well, and he was learning to get over it when he got acquainted to this one girl, the one girl who was suffering heart problems and eventually going to die. And when he talked to the doctors, when it was found out she is guaranteed to die unless there was a heart donor, he was like, fuck it. If she dies, I cannot live anyway. So I might as well just sacrifice myself for the sake of this woman that I really, truly love surviving.
Also, I'll say this much. That doesn't even sound like actual. I get that by the letter of the law in the dictionary it is suicide, but it doesn't sound like the actual intent of suicide. It sounds more like the intent of redemption in death.
Right. I know that's what it was intending, but it didn't really sit well with me.
Oh no, that's one of those things that it's a nice edge. If you fuck up in any way, shape, or form, it'll come off wrong.
Right.
Yeah, and that movie, the whole thing, it has a really dour and miserable tone from beginning to end. It comes across that way.
I'm gonna end up having a Mike Pence here in a moment. I'm just gonna have the fly landing on my face or my hair or whatever, and I'm not gonna notice it.
Yeah.
Right.
Fucking fly.
Come on, let's crotch fly.
I mean,
God damn it.
No, I'm not gonna lie. Like 7 Pounds is definitely a depressing movie. It's definitely not something that I would go rewatching time and time again. I think the one time when I watched it in my teenage years is well enough for me to watch it and somewhat at least respect it. Like, would I revisit it again? No, I will not prioritize that. There are a whole lot of other good movies that I have that I hear are good, but I haven't watched yet. Like, for example, White Men Can't Jump with what's his face? The one guy who played as Tallahassee and Zombieland, and Wesley Snipes in it as well.
Right.
Wait,
Yeah,
there was a movie that had both those guys in it? I gotta see this.
You remember my review of what is it? Me Before You?
Right. Woody Harrelson. That's the name of the actor's name.
I guess when you look at 7 Pounds isn't as offensive and it's dealing with suicide as that one, not even close, but it kind of felt a bit similar, you know?
Did you privatize that review of yours, by the way?
I don't think I did. I don't remember.
I can't remember seeing it. Here, let me see.
Real quick. Also, well, the thing is, to me, that sounds like one of those. It's a subject matter, kind of like of Mice and Men, where at the end of the book, I mean, by the end of the book, you're literally shooting a retard in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Anyway, go on.
And that subject matter, had it been written by anyone else, would have been horrible. You know?
Yeah, I guess.
And so it sounds like one of those things where it's like, unless you get it exactly perfect, this will be bad.
Yeah. And I didn't think 7 Pounds did it exactly perfectly, to be honest. And that's the title of the movie. 7 Pounds is the weight of a human heart.
Oh. Hey, real quick, what was that one Will Smith movie where he's super poor guy in New York?
Pursuit of Happiness. That was actually a good one.
Yes, I loved that. Was so good.
What do you guys think of I Am Legend since we're on Will Smith movies?
It could have been better.
I liked it, but the alternate cut with the different ending is better than what they released in theaters.
Yeah, way better.
All right. Yeah, I mean that's him like basically trying to be God, what is the name of the main character from After Earth that he plays as? I can't even remember. But and then 1 second. Cypher Rage, that's his name. But anyway.
Cypher Rage.
I thought
Horrible.
it was something like that. But anyway, I Am Legend seemed to have been him trying to be Cypher before Cypher in After Earth was even made.
Well,
and it was a fair attempt, I will say, in I Am Legend as compared to After Earth. And he still did have some of his former Will Smithian charisma, like that one part of where that he finds that the one dummy mannequin was posed out there in the middle of the street. He was all like,
no, that was
Jimmy,
great.
are you alive? You better say that you're alive, or I'll kill you. No.
That was.
Well,
I
so
love that
basically,
scene.
The fact that he's alone, just a dog and no humans to talk to, is kind of just weighing on his brain, you know?
Right. And
No, like that was.
And he still managed to like fuse his charisma in an almost kind of depressing way, and it works.
Right.
Whereas
It
After
did
Earth,
work.
he has
I
no charisma at freaking all.
Yeah. Well,
Because
and the other part.
they tend to go nuts unless they like talk to other people. If sustained loneliness like makes you go nuts, so it would make sense that he'd be having psychological issues being all on his own for so long.
Well, the other part was that worked for that character in that, like, you could still see that who he was, but there was the problem of he's alone with a dog, which, don't get me wrong, the dog does a lot for you, but it doesn't do everything.
You can't talk to it. You can't talk to a dog.
And well, you can, but not like you can with a person. But but also because he is he had a family and they're gone, so it really makes sense that his character would become like that, because he's not only just alone, he's also everybody he loves is dead.
Right, and
whereas Cypher is just a prick.
Right. Good point. But Latimer, if you go talking about as to how that if people do not socialize with other people, it'll drive them insane. Thus is why that I made this video, that people on the internet should just unplug and socialize with friends and family more often.
Yeah, but what if you don't have friends or family? Some people
Go
don't.
to church.
What if you're an atheist?
Go to church.
Go to some social event. I mean, unless you are like a, I don't know, a visceral, mouth-breathing anti-theist who has that high hatred of religion, then I don't think a church would be too far of a possibility for you to get into, unless the church is like really overly preachy and unaccepting of non-believers. Like,
Well, yeah, if you walk into the church and you find it's the Westboro Baptist Church, fair enough. Walk
if you
out.
walk into a church and the first thing they go asking, do you believe in Jesus? And they're like, and you're like, no, I'm agnostic. Go away, sinner. Well, then, yeah, in that case, yeah, that church was a bad idea.
Any church that turns away a non-believer is a failed fucking church.
They're self-defeating. Yeah.
No, like, really, is it the holy man that needs the church? Really? Like,
Yeah,
from their own
exactly.
perspective.
But even there are other social event ideas outside of church. Like, go to a I don't know, a nerd shop. Like, for example, I have a place here in Wichita that is a video game bar, and it also serves as a bit of a board game bar as well. Like, they have a wide variety of different board games you can play. Like,
No, there's a place that I like to go to every now and again where it's the only place in town you can reliably find other Yu-Gi-Oh players.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And I mean, most of these guys
options.
smell funny, so if they bitch about you hanging out with them, you know, they need to shut the fuck up.
Get a shower before you get a shower before you start criticizing about your brother's splinter in their eye. That's supposed to be a merging of
bad.
Sorry, what?
You mangled that Jesus quote pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
I was trying to merge together. I was trying to merge together what Trucker was saying about shower, about people smelling bad, with that Jesus quote. And
No, but there's a nerd shop that I go to regularly that, well, regularly. I don't do anything regularly, but relatively. And stuff like that it's nice to be able to go there and be like, hey, you want a duel? As dorky as it sounds.
You want a duel?
I challenge you to trial by combat.
I challenge you to a duel.
Yes. Oh God, I'm using that next time I'm there. Trial by combat.
Yes, that's that great Game of Thrones quote.
Right.
Yeah, I will not find any justice here. Maybe I'll find it with the gods. I demand a trial by combat.
Dun dun dun.
Only Tyrion Lannister. There is a great character, Tyrion Lannister.
Wasn't he the little one?
Yes, Tyrion the Imp.
I loved him.
Yeah, he's the greatest.
He was such a dude, and the story of why he's now a womanizer too is so fucking tragic.
Yeah, I know, because the whole him marrying a whore when he was a teenager like that. But...
Yeah, it was basically his brother playing a prank on him, like thinking he's helping him.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude.
Right. Because of course he's quite short, but even though he comes from one of the richest families in the nation, so he's very privileged in that regard.
Yeah, well, he's also a great expression of the reality that no matter how privileged somebody is, there is something about them that isn't good in their life, you know?
Right. Well,
and he expresses that because he has issues with the fact that he's short.
Yeah, but he makes up for it. You know, he's witty and funny and intelligent. And
no, he's an amazing character. And I mean, as a person, he has great character. But for him, he can't get over the fact that he's a dork. It fucks with him in his head.
He saw that his father never really loved him because he was embarrassed. Well, not just because his wife died during childbirth with him, but also just he saw having like a dwarf as a son as an embarrassment.
Oh, that had to be extra horrible too. You know that.
Yeah, because he's like one of those powerful families in the land, and his son's got this deformity.
but he was a great expression of that reality.
Whereas his brother and sister were both very, very attractive people, and he's like this short little dwarf, you know.
And they were incestuous creeps.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, guys, did you have any final words to say? I do have something else I have to get to right now.
I don't know. Quinn reviews, you were mostly wrong in this video, but you're still cool.
I don't know you, Quinn. I'm sure you're good. I'll check out some of your videos.
Yes.
And I will concur with Loudmouth. You're still a cool guy. Again, Quinn, I still like a whole lot of your content, and you are the main reason as to why that I know so much about Dune, and I thank you for that. But still, as far as representations of anti-SJWs, you need to learn about your opposition more before you start making a video supposedly responding to them, because this was just a dud in that area.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But other than that, if I can get my words right, the release of Dune here in the States is coming up soon, y'all. October 22nd. I am looking forward.
Give us part 2.
Yes.
For real.
I'm looking forward to watching it on opening day. And yes?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, and the following Sunday, I'm going to be having a review stream on this very channel talking about that very specific movie, and hopefully you guys will be available for that, right?
Sure. Maybe we can have it on mine.
Okay.
I will do everything within my power to watch it in time.
I will.
Otherwise, I ain't showing up. I don't want spoilers.
The spice must flow.
All right, we can probably do it on your channel, Loudmouth. Do you mind if I also streamed it on my channel as well through OBS?
Maybe. We'll look into that.
All right. I also want to put forth that on that Sunday, I'm not going to be available until like late afternoon, early evening, so you'll have to keep in contact with me for arranging of that live stream.
All right, we'll look into it by then.
The week beforehand or so, do you want to do like a EFAP style breakdown of all the advertisements?
Nah.
All the advertisements for what?
For Dune.
For Dune?
The sandworm looked cool.
The sandworm did look fucking cool.
I don't know if there is enough content to be streaming about on that, well then maybe I'll consider it. But otherwise, I was thinking on like 2 Sundays from now, maybe doing a stream sniping of Adam and Stitch's channel.
Right.
I don't know, just for the heck of it.
Adam and Stitch talking about now?
Right now, it seems that they're reviewing a TradCon and then a socialist video, or they're reviewing a TradCon versus socialist debate. But nonetheless. It doesn't matter. So anyway, stay tuned for that, y'all. Go watch Dune. Otherwise, you are going to suffer spoilers on the review stream that we go talking about the Sunday after that. But hope to see y'all later. And for all of y'all that have watched this far, thank you for tuning in. If not, I'll have to do a highlight reel of this stream. Maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, I'd like to especially thank Reckless Trucker and Loudmouth for joining me on talking about this, as I'm not that well versed on Dune as you guys are.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here, man.
God bless. Have a good night. Have a good week. See y'all later.